It'll be fine. It'll be all be fine.
Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. I'm back. I'm not dead. I'm recovering. We're good, and we're ready to talk about ogres. The irony of having surgery on my gut, and like having a very sensitive little tummy right now while we're about to discuss ogres is not lost on me. But joining me, as always, my co-host Tom. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hello, friends. How are you doing? This is exciting.
It is exciting. This is a good show. I am very, very actually excited about this. Also, because of our guest, the bigness himself, the man, the myth, the legend, the Frost Lord, the tyrant, the over tyrant of Frost Lords, the Frost Lord tyrant, frankly. What's up, Haywo? How you doing, buddy?
Yo.
Solid. Love it, as always. Yes, we are going to be discussing the Ogre book tonight, but of course we'll be going and discussing everything else that we normally do first. Speaking of which, the news. What's going on, man? What do we got?
A rumor engine?
Yeah, it's 40k thing. Next. We got too much tonight to waste time with this nonsense. It's a 40k pistol. Grenades. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, that's fair. That checks out. So let's talk about that Cities of Sigmar stuff.
Yep. Yeah, there's new little Cities of Sigmar. Here are some more individual pieces of this army. Exciting.
So, Haywo, what did you think?
I'm sorry, of what?
Ogre food. Ogre
of the
food
Cities of
answer.
Sigmar, like, here's our next step on our design journey thing. Did you look at the shields and
that's
boots
kind of my joke,
and
but,
other associated things?
It's one of those jokes.
Got it.
No, however, I poke fun at it, but let's still be fair. I like regular updates. That's just nice. It's nice to see. Hey, we're working on this. We'd like to tell you about it. Clearly kind of a long ways away. But here's a nice picture. I appreciate that.
Do you know what my favorite thing about that update was, Vince?
I'm ready. I can't wait to know your favorite thing.
It feels like we had confirmation that there's horses in the army.
Well, were you assuming there wasn't going to be horses in the army? Why wouldn't there be horses in the army?
I don't know. Because there really haven't been horses in any other AOS
there are
army.
Horses in
I know Lumineth, blah, blah, blah. I don't care.
I was going to say, look, if you like a zebra duct taped to a rhino with a mane like a lion and a chicken tail, just a bunch of stuff duct taped together like you're building a character for Pathfinder, you know, coming up with that backstory to explain all 6 of your halves and parents. You're going to like the Mountain AOS, but for the based horse enjoyers, pickings are slim.
It is.
So
no, it's
I
true.
feel for you, and I hope you get what you want.
I hope so too. As I looked at this, what struck me was that like the bottom pictures that they showed were like the back quarters of the horse barding.
Sure.
Now, those could just be like shoulder blades that have little tassels on them, like shoulder pauldrons with little tassels. But that seemed more Slanesh. So it's probably for horses.
Could be half horse, half robot. When you've only seen half of the horse, you've not seen everything in Age of Sigmar.
I mean, you are not wrong. You are not wrong. So I was excited about the Cities of Sigmar announcements, or the update, so to say. We've got another update for this season.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't understand why people
I don't
like
care
these
about
horses.
your opinion.
That's fine. I'm going to share it anyways. Who cares? Why do people like horses? Who gives a flying crap? The coolest things in Warhammer Fantasy were all the non-horses that we loved. Those were all weird animals slammed together too. Like Pegasus Knights in Bretonnia were super cool because you know what's better than just a horse? Slap some wings on that bad boy, you got a better model. Put a horn on it so it's a unicorn, you got a better model. Okay, combine it with a lion, you got a better model. Like we all know this is true because it was the stuff we all liked. When you're playing D&D, you're not excited about buying a horse. That's a thing you can just start with in the equipment. But when you find Greater Steed and call a Perieton or a Griffin and you ride that thing into the skies, you're like, I am Billy Badass. Behold me. Okay? A merchant taking his stuff to market uses a horse or an ox. Who cares? Who cares? It's not interesting. Okay?
Are you ready? Are you ready for the reality check, Vince?
Sure.
You're right. It's not interesting when every grape farmer has an entire stable of Peritons, right?
No,
because
you're
that's
right.
that's what
we're
that's
not
where
playing.
you're at
We're not playing
with
grape
AOS.
farmers, Tom. Horses exist in the world. They're out there.
No,
Okay.
they don't. They don't. They are rare. They are the rare thing. Just like in those other examples, the reasons why those things were special is because not everybody had them. They were accomplishments. They were unique. They were special. Here, everybody has the weird
because you're playing the heroes,
dog.
Tom. You're playing the heroes. That's like playing a D&D party and being like, no, fighter, you get to stick with the normal horse so that we can all feel better about our other mounts, our weird mounts. Your argument is stupid. Next news item.
Speaking of normal horses, anybody want some Doomfire Warlocks in a box?
Hey, there we go. Beautiful. What a transition. There they are.
The answer to that question apparently is no, because they're still putting them in boxes for the 5th year in a row or whatever.
Indeed. Just give me a second.
You're okay.
Yeah, so we have a Battle Force boxes that have arrived. And that was a transition. I appreciate that. Hey, well. Daughters of Cain are amongst them with Doomfire. That tax still is alive and kicking. Along with them, we had Squigs and...
Well, here, I've got all the pictures.
Oh, do you have the images? Okay.
I got them all, baby. We're going to go through them all. So there are 7. Sorry, 7. No, I was going to say 8 because I can't count. 7 AOS Battle Force boxes this year. Is that too many? Yes. But nonetheless, here we go. So let's hit these in order. We're going to all give them a quick rating. The Cain Slaughter Coven, the aforementioned Doomfire Warlocks that Haywo so beautifully segued us into. This box containing 10 Witch Elder Sisters of Slaughter, 5 Doomfires, the Coven Throne, which is obviously a bunch of different potential models, which is nice because then not pictured is the bonus Medusa on foot you get if you build it like this. And then 5 of the Snake Ladies, which could be built either way, and 5 Canary, which could be built either way. Okay, we don't know the price on these things. Tom, what do you think these are? Round $220, $210?
I think they're $210.
Okay.
You know what? No, I'll say $220 because we were $210 last year, and we've had almost an across the board 10% price hike here in America.
Sure.
10%. So I'm gonna say at least $220, possibly $230. I hope not, but possibly.
Okay. Let's just assume they're like $220 and use that as our benchmark because you can't. Because like if this was $5, it would obviously be the most amazing thing in history. If it's $1,000, it's the worst thing in history, right? So we got to plant a flag somewhere. So we'll say $220, and then you assume you can get your normal local discounts at whatever store you purchase through. Okay. Okay. So let's say $220. What's your rating on this box, Tom? If you're wanting to get into a Doc army, how's this box?
It's fine.
Is that like a B? Is that a
like
B?
A C. It's like a C. There's two dead units in there. I don't know. I
what's
don't
the
like
second
the
dead
Doomfire.
unit?
The Canary. Like they're just not as hot anymore.
I mean, they're a free automatic battle tactic, but okay.
I know. Well, assuming your event is using book battle tactics.
I understand, which they shouldn't be. Hey, what's your take here? How you like this one?
Well, I don't know what the individual pieces cost, and you said a number, and I went to American public school, so my arithmetic is a little shaky.
Sure.
But if I'm getting in the Daughters of Cain, and those horsies are free, like that's the discount, like the box costs X minus horses if you were to just buy it individually.
Sure.
And you want to use all the models in there, it's a great box. If you don't want to use all the models in there, it's not the greatest box, but it's got stuff in an army that you like.
Okay.
I know, bold takes the start collectings, but that's
super bold. Look, I'm going to give this a solid B minus. because not pictured, you also get a Hag Queen on foot if you build it like this, or a Slaughter Queen on foot if you build it the other way, and you get a Medusa on foot, which you're going to include in most armies.
Yeah, that
So
kit
you're getting,
features
like,
a whole bunch of extra stuff. True.
Yeah, like 2 bonus heroes, which is cool.
Right.
The Doomfires drag it down. If the Doomfires were like a second unit of Snake Ladies, I'd be A on this one all the way. Okay. Boom. Cruel Boys, Swamp Lurkers. You get 10 stock standard Swamp Bogglers. Okay. You get a Derek. I'm gonna see if I can do this without using any real names. Okay. You get the Giant Turkey guy. Special character, or who can be built as also the normal dude on Giant Turkey. And you get 3 bolty shooty boys. Okay. Again, we'll assume this is kind of in the normal price range. This one's a low score from me. Not just because Cruel Boys are like bad right now. I mean, they kind of are. But also because this just feels super light.
Yeah, it's just 2 big models and a couple other small things. You know, like this doesn't feel like the way to go about this, as opposed to like the Squig box.
Okay. I mean, I like Turkey Boy, and I like Derek.
Yeah.
They're both good. It's just I'm not paying for a whole Battle Force box for them. And
Right.
Yeah.
if I had maybe like 2 units of standard Swamp Bogglers or something, but I don't. I have 1. Any disagreements? Okay,
No.
let's move. Stampeding Squigalanche, everything you'd ever want in your Squig-themed Squigorific Squig party. 2 Mangler Squigs, which can obviously be built as either the boss or the regular. A Squig Herd, which is like the 12 model unit. The Loon Boss on Cave Squig, and then 10 of the Hoppers, which can be Hoppers or Bounders. Okay. I mean, here's what I'll say about this one. A, it's all Squigs. What else are you going to give this? It's a solid A. It contains... What is amazing about this? There's no trolls in this box. Tom, there's no trolls in this box. Did you notice that?
I know. You know how much I already noticed that, Vince?
How much? You already put an order for this?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I've already pre-ordered this. Yes, indeed.
This is a box I really like, because if you're getting into Gloomspite and what you want to play is Squigs, you look at this box and it features just a bunch of Squigs.
Yeah.
And it's all Squigs that you would probably play if you were going to want to play Squigs.
Right.
Like, it's everything
Brilliant.
that I'm going to want in generally the numbers that I'm going to want them. Like, I'm going to want 1 small boss, probably.
Yeah.
I'm going to
2
want
big
at
ones,
least 1
probably.
Mangler, probably 2.
If you're not running Crag, probably 2.
Yeah.
Probably 2. Yep. I don't think I'm going to want a Herd now at this point, but that's, it's not the end of the world. Like, I can always
But
throw
it's
one of
good
those
to be
in.
ready, because you don't know what the new
Right.
Gits book will bring.
Right.
Exactly. And then those Hoppers can build as either Boingrot or Hoppers. Those 10 in the back. So, I mean, I like the box. Especially because basically the 2 Manglers are the cost of a normal one of these boxes about.
Oh, really? You get that much for...
I think each
Free.
of these are almost 100, each Mangler. They're like 80 or 85. So maybe not. So maybe it's those 2 plus the Foot Hero would be the cost of the box. And then the other 2 units. Because that Herd unit is 1 unit, and then the 10 Hoppers are 1 boxes.
Sure.
It needs an Ale Guzzler to become A+. Can we ban this guy? Do you have moderation?
Well, the Gits boxes have had this wonderful classic history of including rando units for no reason, right? For a long time, it was just they threw in an Ale Guzzler because there were extra sprues around the factory. And then it was just like...
to me. They did it to my people as well.
Yep.
The Ogre.
And then it'd be 3 trolls. Like, here's all your Squigs, and guest starring 3 trolls for no reason. Like, thanks. Okay, the Skaven box. I feel I can speak with authority on this one.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a pretty wild box, because it's like a bell, which can be built as either the bell or the furnace, and then 40 clan rats, 40 plague monks, the bombardier, and 3 storm fiends. So like from just the mass infantry combined with the most elite unit in the thing, the sort of Varangard of Skaven, right? These Storm Fiends. And
it's bodies.
It is bodies. Like, my legit statement on this one is this is a good buy for you if you're interested in Skaven. You just absolutely do not build it as the Bell, because that is a complete waste trash unit right now. It's the worst unit in the book. You build it as the Furnace, however, which is actually quite a interesting unit that can do things and has a valid function in the army. So that's nice. You got your 2 units of Clan Rats, 20 and 20. Easy chaff. You got a big old pack of Plague Monks, which is
like
great.
What, 40? Yeah.
Yeah. And Plague Monks have many uses in lists because they have a built-in bonus to charge. So they can do all sorts of like pop up and charge on 8 tricks, which is fun. Bombardier is awesome. Great engineer. Storm Fiends are good still. Shocker of shockers. So yeah, solid. Just never, ever, ever build the Bell as long as the current book exists, because it's trash. So yeah, I agree with Germ. It's a great starter if you plan on going wide with Skaven. Yeah. It provides you a good base. Like the engineer and the Clan Rats will show up in just like basically every list you ever write. So all right. The Legion of Grief. Tom, I'm coming to you on this one. This has I already know that this is not a highly rated box because I see this thing sitting over here, and this is a big problem. We have Lady O, then we have 10, I'm gonna say, Grimghasts. Then we have, I guess this is 10 Dread Scythe Harridans. I don't know if those can be built to something else or not. I don't know what any of these things can be built as. Then you've got 10.
Never seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, Bladegeist Revenants. These all look alike. This is like, why you play this and Fire Slayers? These are, why do you play armies where none of the troops can be told apart?
Do you want to know the answer?
And then of course you have the Black Coach.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, sure, man.
The painting technique's all the same, so I can be uniform across. I can be consistent. So the answer is yes. Actually, it was 10 Grimghasts, 10 Bladegeist Revs, 10 Dread Scythe Harridans, a Lady O, and the Black Coach. It's fine.
None of your little dudes. No little dudes.
No, no Chain Rasp Horde. Actually, it's not fine. I'm lying to you, and here's why.
Yeah, okay.
Because the way that the book is designed, it incentivizes you to go deep. Like, so if you choose your subfaction,
you're either going to go deep on Dread Scythes to ignore the wards, or deep on Bladegeist to do the mortal wounds. Right? Yep. You're not gonna run this.
But you're not going to do both. You're just simply not going to do both. Yep. And then you may run, and then if you're not in one of those subfactions, then you run Grimghast, which are the top option.
Right.
So it gives you 3 possible starters
that you're not going to run together.
You're almost never going to run any of those 3 units together. So that's a problem.
Next. Sylvaneth. We get Dryka, Power Armor, Angry Tree Lady. 2 Tree Lords, which can all be built as either a regular Tree Lord or a Tree Lord Ancient or Durthu, Spirit of, and then you get a bunch of Dryads. And is there like a Branch Witch in here as well, or is this all Dryads too? 16 Dryads. Really? That's the number? We're still doing the 16 Dryads because they're like 8 on a sprue.
Because it's 2 sprues, buddy.
Love it.
This is the world we live in.
Okay, well, you can take the Dryads and more or less throw them in the bin, but that's fine. You've got 10 Dryads, and then you have 6 extra Dryads for basing bits. Okay, cool.
Conversions.
Fine. It is a cheap battle line unit. The Spite Revs, I don't remember if those are the same sprue as Tree Revs or not. I think they are.
They are, yes. Yeah. Having built some, yes, they are.
Yeah. But Dryka and the Tree Lords are all awesome, as are Tree Revs. Like, if you're getting 2 units of Tree Revs, 2 Tree Lords, Dryka, and then some rando battle line you might use in an army to round it out, that's an A box to me.
Yeah, this, for me, what this says is this is a great, like, getting started box, right? This covers your bases. You may throw in a unit of Dryads. You may throw in a unit of, you're probably going to have a unit of Tree Revs. And you're probably, like one of those 3 big boys you're going to run at least, if not 2. So, I don't hate it.
Yeah, it's just missing the Kurnoth. you got to go out and pick up like 3 boxes of Kurnoth. So.
Yep.
That's okay. You'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy playing those.
Yeah, it's fine. It's good stuff. All right, the Thunderstrike Spearhead, which comes with Vanquishers. Okay, like a good number of Vanquishers, like 10 Vanquishers.
Did something happen to Vanquishers recently to make them good? I don't remember being terrifically impressed before, but
they're
on a 4-up, but they got cheap. They're down at 110, which makes them much more interesting.
Okay.
And like 10 Vanquishers is actually how I would run them. I think they are an interesting unit at 220 now. They're like creeping as a possibility into the world. You get 10 Shooty Boys, which also went down in points considerably. Yeah, they're Vigilors, yeah.
Yep.
Which went down as well, like 20 points to 175. I'm still not sure they're worth it, but they're okay. You get 2 Dragons. Great. You get 3 Annihilators with Grand Hammers. Great. Obviously awesome. And you get a Knight Relictor, which you will convert to a Lord Relictor.
Yeah. You'll take that Rock fanny pack off of him and give him some sort of banner to be holding.
Yep. That's all you gotta do. Real easy. This is my Lord Relictor. All Stormcast heroes look alike. This is him.
You know, the knight went down in points in that battle. That battle scroll.
It did. It needs to drop about another 100. How much is he now? 125. It needs to drop about another 120 before I'd put him in a list.
You can go lower.
Yeah. I'm like lukewarm on Vanquishers. This one gets like a B- from me. Is my honest answer. Just because like it's a lot of units I'm pretty lukewarm on in its main troops, Vigilors and Vanquishers.
I don't know. I kind of like it. Like I look at it and I'm like, I want 10 of those units and 10 of those models and 10 of those and a couple dragons. And I want 3 hammer strike or hammer.
Sure.
Dude.
The Annihilators with hammers.
Yeah, Annihilators, Grand Hammers. Like I look at that and I'm like, only the Foot Dude is the only one that I'm like, okay.
Sure.
I'm glad the hammer guys are pictured. Because sometimes in these boxes you only get like one option.
Yeah.
And if I saw shields on there, I'd be a little, am I getting the big hammers, the ones I want?
Yeah.
Indeed. That's all our Battle Force boxes. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. What's next?
Yeah, certainly. So we have
By the way, some people said this would pair nicely with Dominion. I don't disagree with that. It actually, like, if you have the Dominion half of Stormcast, you basically have a pretty good size army there. So, and Michael, I am absolutely sleeping on the Knight Relictor. I am sleeping.
Yep, hard pass. Okay, so let's jump to the FAQs, but particularly one that slipped by quite a few individuals.
Yeah,
because the STD book got a FAQ day 1. They said that there was an error in the book, and indeed there was.
Day negative 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Day negative a week patch, technically. Yes.
Yeah, I guess it did drop before the book, and that is that the 4-up ward that everybody was crying foul on, or 4-up ward, the 4-up rally that everybody was so fearful of is actually a 5-up.
Yeah.
Right?
We got an early design pass probably on it, is my guess.
Yes. Yep. And then as well, the because these aren't the books that so this isn't. So the book that we're getting in here is a special cover one, right?
Yeah.
This is the collector's edition.
This is the collector's one that's only coming into this box that would have been printed like way before the actual other one.
Yeah.
And so I suspect maybe it might be updated when we get the new one, because I think they said that in the non-English versions, they're all 5-up wards, or the 5-up rallies, not the 4-ups.
Yeah, and the Giga Miners in Halo Discord were translating Chinese and French ones, and the numbers were the same on those.
Oh,
but I'm not sure if those were like the real Chinese ones or if just somebody translated it and then we translated it back after not knowing. So I don't know, but
possible.
Either way, I don't know that it's too big of a deal. It's interesting that you're getting the collector's edition, which is wrong, but I guess you're paying for the cover on that one.
Yeah.
I suspect the normal book will have these same errors in it, by the way.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
Yeah, I do too.
because I think just the wrong file went to the printer, and you'd wrap the like the way those books are put together, the core file is separate from the cover with that binding. Like the cover file gets wrapped into the guts. It's just the stock of paper and the edging and stuff like that because they have the gold leaf edge and so on. Anyways, okay, let's talk changes real quick.
Yep.
Because there are 6 changes. We're a little more than 1 error. There are 6 errors, and there are more FAQs that aren't in here.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps a serpentine one. We'll have to see.
Yeah. The interesting part about the Slaves book when we talk about it next week is it was really clearly taking a big swing at a big change at a lot of like, we're going to completely redefine this army. And when they go that far off script, like they're cutting from whole cloth, they got messy clearly. Whereas the Ogre book, he is going to, spoilers, it hews a little closer to its existing historical framework, let's say.
My chagrin, yeah.
Yes. And not really a lot of FAQs or issues in the Ogre book. Pretty tight writing. So at any rate, okay. The Mark of Chaos for the Mark of Tzeentch, the Warp Reality teleport spell, was fixed so that the unit can't move after you teleport.
That was 100% guarantee.
Yeah.
To the surprise of no one. Just forgot to add the sentence.
Yes.
It is now the 6th. It's now the 6th or 7th time they forgot to add that sentence to a teleport, and they have become very efficient at it.
Yes. The Realm Warper's Twist rune actually got a power change, so clearly this was an earlier version thing. In the book, it only triggers on a 6-up that they suffer a mortal wound. Now instead, it triggers on a 5-up. So you'll do slightly more mortal wounds once a game with this completely worthless thing that used to be a totally free thing you could do at the end of movement every time you moved. Good stuff.
Awesome.
Pour one out for the Demon Princes in advance for next week. Okay, the Demonic Speed went up 1 casting value. In the book, it's a 6. Here, it's a 7. Otherwise, it's the same. This is correct, by the way. Like, it shouldn't be that easy to make your units all charge on.
It's a very good spell.
It is a very good spell. And there are multiple paths.
Oh, sorry, what?
Go ahead, Halo.
And don't skim it. It does only work on mounts. Don't get your hopes up. But that's still basic. And turns out your mounted units are pretty good. Spoilers ahead for STD.
Yeah.
But
yes. There are multiple paths to charging 3d6 inches, is what I was going to say in this book.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
So like it shouldn't just be a thing that you get to that is so super easy. So I'm happy with that. Ensorcelled Banner on the Ensorcelled Banner. So you got sort of 2 changes here. One is just you have to sort of designate who has the banner and stuff like that, yada yada. It can't just be like amorphously in the unit. Someone is physically holding that thing.
It's not a Skaven Assassin where you hide a banner somewhere in the squad and then you reveal it later when it's the last thing alive. Yeah.
Right. Which that's fine. That was just a clarification. We all would probably assume that, but good. And
they're telling you on purpose to play how everyone probably just should anyway. So.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then you have an actual power correction in that the Nurgle Ensorcelled Banner was ridiculously overpowered and way too strong, and it got knocked down into where it should be. It's still a very good banner. It used to, like in the book as it's printed, it has a 12-inch aura bubble of worsening the Neg 1 Rend around a unit of potentially 20 or 30 Chaos Warriors, which is just ridiculous.
Amazing.
No.
It got brutally nerfed all the way down to very, very good.
Right. It's now only really good. Yes. And then finally, the change that, everybody was complaining about, as already mentioned. The rally that was on a 4-up in Host of the Everchosen is actually on a 5-up, and Varangard were removed from that buff. So.
Yep.
It's okay. Your Varangard are still good. You just might look to a different subfaction.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. There's one where they're pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it next week. There was also another tranche of FAQ drops today. Most of them were very small, very minor correction stuff. The important part to understand there is you've got 2 current S2D erratas, and the Archeon scroll in the old one is not the correct Archeon scroll, but it is until the new book is tournament legal, because the old book isn't, because the new book isn't tournament legal until the book itself comes out for GW events. They now have to hold, Archaon is in this liminal state where he exists in two forms at the same time, where he has both his old scroll that's in the FAQ, where they had to also update the Gaunt Summoner to be in line and correct how he works, to bring him in line with the other stuff, and then the new Archaon will supplant that scroll once this book becomes tournament legal. Completely obvious, right? No, why would this be confusing at all? It's sarcasm. Okay.
Weird.
Yes, and then so now there are like 3 Gaunt Summoners floating around in 2 different S2D books and 1 Siege book. And then at the same time, the meaningful FAQ we got today in the today's drop was that if a model, basically, if a model has on their war scroll that they know all the spells of Allure, the question was, do they bring that with them into the other armies if they're allied? Answer, right. No, because it's an enhancement. Oof. Okay, big change.
That is new and heavy.
Hey, what's your take on this? You sad about it? You happy about it? What do you care? Do you care at all?
I actually thought the opposite. I didn't know the people were doing this, I suppose. I looked at, you get all the spell lores from that other army, but that other army, I mean, spell lores are an allegiance ability, so I figured you didn't get them. And so when this came out, I'm like, yep, I figured. And then all sorts of people online were like very surprised. I'm like, oh shit, I must have missed a bunch of people assuming the opposite. There's like a decent argument for the other side though, right? Like Tom mentioned before, it says you do that on the War Scroll, and there's a convention now, maybe not when this thing was being written, but where you say, if this is in a such and such army, then you get this, and so it's even more obviously disconnecting it from that, and it didn't have that language on it, so maybe it was a question, but question answered. Chaos Soup is confusing and chaotic, and it frightens me.
Yeah.
And so I just stay away from it and see where the dice land on that stuff. I'm not.
That's why we got to get you on the
Skaven
train.
Kind of allies. I like to keep it. I got Ogre Army. I'm playing Ogres. I got Fish Army. I play Fish.
See, hey, we're gonna get you on the Skaven train, because everybody hates Skaven in the lore of the world. So they don't have, like, nobody allies into them. No, they don't. They never want friends. Zero confusion. You're just running.
Everyone
around.
hates Skaven, especially Skaven.
Correct. That's what's great about them. It's wonderful. All we got to do is whenever we get those new sculpts, which I'm sure are coming, I'm gonna say probably summer this year. It's inevitable.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get another book. We're the Lumineth of 2023. I'm
calling. They've been working on them for 38
You're
years.
Not. You're not. Stop.
Really
Stop feeding the hopes and dreams of Skaven players everywhere.
You shut your face.
Look,
so when those happen, we'll
get some Spider Gloom Spite instead. But as soon as you get some Spider Gloom Spite, then we'll get some of that. Then we'll get those silent people that everybody's inventing out of whole cloth. Then we'll get those Malarian elves that were just around the corner every 6 months for the past 4.5 years. Finally, it'll be that thing. All your dreams will come true, chat.
Very nice. All right. Anything else that we anything else in the news? Stop answering my wife, Tom, and answer my question. Anything else in the news?
Other than no. Again, we covered the FAQ lore stuff, so that was the one.
Cool. Very good. All right. Long news section today, but that's all right. We knew this was going to be a big one. So let's move on to some pick of the week. Hey, what would you like to share? What's your pick for everybody?
Well, my pick are the most recent things I have been watching on YouTube, and I'm not really a battle report watcher necessarily. However, this weekend I consumed a lot of that type of content because Ogres just came out, and I need to kind of know what I'm talking about because I'm going to be on a show you might have heard of. old Warhammer Weekly, pretending to be an expert about it. So I'm like, well, I'm going to watch some battle reports and see what's going on. And I watched, I don't know, probably 8, maybe 10 of them. And I watched Ogres absolutely Mr. Plow monster truck over whomsoever they were fighting and win every single game. And so I'm ready to complain about how they're not actually that good. Please believe. And one I liked very much is a friend of the show, Rerolling Ones. His Blood Pelt Hunter that he has already bought and fully painted up and customized is in a tree stand on the base on like a pine tree, maybe 5 or 6 inches tall, inside a little tree stand, shooting down little hunter stuff action. I liked it. I thought it fit perfectly. Didn't do much in the game, but it was a great little conversion.
Well, as everybody who is from Wisconsin knows, tree stand safety is really important.
Oh yeah, get that harness on there, screw those climbers up in there.
Yeah, it's important. Tom, what's your pick of the week?
Actually, it's one of your old videos. And that is your hobby cheating 315 how to paint Nurgle with Slaves to Darkness coming, and I may have a box on pre-order. I was like, let me check out how to paint some of this Nurgle stuff. Maybe I'll bust out some Slaves. And so I watched it, and it's just a great video. It shows all the things you need. So check it out.
Very nice. For myself, I'm going to, of course, spruik our guest, which is Haywo, who has both really everything you need when it comes to the Ogre book if you want to go beyond this. And what I mean by that is we have I will link his Twitch channel and his YouTube, because we have the perfect 2-minute video that's going to really summarize everything we're going to spend a couple hours here talking about. I will link to that. But also, you can go watch the 8-hour video stream of him going through everything in even more crushing detail than we will today. So depending on which side you find yourself on, whether you want the ultimate summary or the deepest dive, Haywo has you covered. So there you go.
I got the exciting short meme-filled video for the Zoomers, and I got the long, thick, full 8-hour plus a bunch of note-taking for the Boomers, who like a different type of excitement, I guess.
Absolutely. So I will link out to those down below. Okay, gentlemen, let's talk about a little hobby time. Haywo, I know you were sharing some hobby out on Twitter because you were forced to pay the tax. As we all know,
that's the rules,
that's required
and
now.
we follow the rules.
Yeah. So what you been working on? What's on your desk?
Hey, you remember a year or two ago when I was working on that Mawpot conversion? And then I stopped working on that Mawpot conversion because I had a bunch of other stuff going on in my life, and every time I had time to hobby, I'm like, I might as well stream the hobby. And if I couldn't stream but I had time to work on the hobby, I might as well take a video editing contract or work on a YouTube video. And so just somehow the hobby never happened. Well, new Ogre book. It's time to get real. Let's finish that Mawpot. And then I read the book, and it's not going to be a Mawpot. It's going to be something else. I don't know. Maybe I'm probably going to buy a Kragnos tomorrow, rip his head and part of his shoulders and stuff off, string him up on the maw pole, take his weapon and shield, give it to the ogre. Just when in doubt, put more stuff on it.
Sure. Just continue this Frankensteinian monster you're creating. I love it. I see no issues.
You won't even be able to pick it up when I'm done with it.
Perfect. Tom, what's been on your desk, my dog?
Yeah, so I have actually been working on a commission that keeps on changing. It might be because I'm taking a while, but I was working on some stuff, and then some units got added, and then I'm working on some stuff, and they're like, "Hey, some Slaves to Darkness stuff. Can you work on that?" And so I'm in this perpetual build train, trying to get back to the like painting, priming stage. But I'll get there. So I've been working through some Sylvaneth and Slaves to Darkness stuff. I had put a bunch of my Holy Wars army together, but we'll see about that. So And then, because spending money is part of the hobby, I might have picked up like a lot of Zeech halves of the dual boxes over that I've dropped over the last. Like somebody at a local store was breaking them up and selling them off, and I was like, "Oh, are you? Well, what are you doing with all those old Aether and Arcane Cataclysm halves for Zeech? Because I want discs, right? Like I want Zangor. I want like that's what I was wanting." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, well, X number of dollars per half." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." And so I picked up like a couple Aether War halves, a couple Arcane Cataclysm, and have basically all the Zangor I'm ever going to need. Have no idea when I'm going to get to them, but I have them now. So that happened. So buying's part of the hobby, right? That's the thing, right?
Certainly, yes.
Buying is certainly an activity.
It is an activity, absolutely. For myself, I haven't been able to hobby super much over the course of the week because obviously after last week's show, I went and had surgery, and then I couldn't really sit in this chair comfortably for any amount of time in hobby, but I did manage to get some stuff still progressed. So I've got my King Broad conversion. He's coming along. His skin is mostly done. And I'm working on some armor plates and stuff like that. So he's got some paint going on.
Oh, he's got a big old wiggly hand too. I like it.
Yeah, wiggly hand. Yeah, he's got the grabby hand. That's for doing the body slam.
Yeah, perfect.
That's his body slam claw. So he's coming along. I'm excited about this dude. Still a little more work to do there on popping that skin up, but it's in a decent place. And then at the same time, I've also been very slowly chipping away at the first model for my Golden Demon unit, which is going to be these Ogroid Therodons, because I really love them.
Cool.
And as you can see, if you look at the model like this, it basically looks like I've painted nothing. And then if you flip him around, it looks like I've painted many things, because I am doing each section of skin on the model in one incredibly long, detailed process. Like each little area is, a couple hours of work or whatever, because that's how Golden Demon projects work. And this is just the first pass. I'm sure I'll have to come back and do much more on these afterwards. So every little skin is slowly getting blocked in off of the black undercoat there. As you can see, that's about where we are right now. But it's an incredibly rewarding process to paint like that. Like I get why you see, like I love the sort of Instagram display painter of like a painted Space Marine leg, right? Because it is this incredibly rewarding thing to have the model just be sort of primed black, and then you just paint a hand. And you sit down and you're going to be like, look, my only goal today is this hand. If I'm done with this hand in the next 2 hours, that's an absolute win, right? And you feel like you hit some gold, and the next time it's like, I'm going to do his forearm or whatever, right? And life continues one piece at a time. That's where we go. So there we go. So that's my hobby. The big guy is a much more fun project. He's a little loose. He's keeping it loose. The little guy, I have to alternate back and forth or I'll lose my sanity. So there we go.
Makes
all right.
sense. Break it up a little bit.
Yeah. You got to have like the fun project where I can just kind of go nuts and play around with stuff and not have to care about being perfect, to counterbalance the I am spending 2 hours painting an upper thigh, knowing that that's only the first 2 hours of many hours on said upper thigh. Okay, gentlemen, let's talk about ogres, shall we? Let's bring it up. Here we go. The big boys are back. Now,
the bigs.
Yes. Halo, I think truly one of the great sadnesses that you feel, that you like, there's a hole in your soul you're not even aware is there. And what I mean by that is, ogres weren't a super long pedigreed army within Warhammer Fantasy. So they only came out in the mid-2000s. Okay. And when they initially came out, they were so strong. They came out in 6th edition, if memory serves. And they were so strong. Because they would just bowl over people. as they charged in, they would just do this crushing damage that many armies would just wither under instantly. Like, always be charging. The ABCs were in effect. And it was unreal to just watch this army just run ham over most anybody when they launched, right? It was a great time. Now, obviously, that was more of a gutbuster period, right? That was because that's what ogres were. They didn't have the big boys yet that you came to love. I was reminded of that story when I read this book, is what I'll say. In that, it feels like we seized back on the original concept of the army, and in fact, that's my summary here. Like, if you liked ogres before, you still like ogres now. This is less revolution, more evolution. It's a solid tome overall. There's some nice options. There is better internal balance. There are some notable exceptions. It's still fairly monosyllabic as an army. Like, it lives by the ABCs. Always be charging. That's basically the plan. No plan B, it distracts from plan A, as it were. They do have some good access to mortal wounds and higher damaging attacks, which will put them on a footing where, like, the sheer amount of mortal wounds they can cause / the higher damage attacks they have will sometimes just win them games. Like, there's some armies that will just wither under that.
Yeah.
They have some incredibly tough hero options. Like, some of the toughest heroes in the game will be found in this army. Like, most defensive is what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think overall it still didn't get... It still feels like we didn't get all the love that this book deserved. Like, we missed some opportunities for improvement. So that's my overall summary. Hey, well, what's your 40,000 foot view?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I don't have the deep, long pedigree of Warhammer Fantasy Battle because I never played that game. I parachuted in when Age of Sigmar got points and kind of looked around and had to figure out what was going on. So I picked up Beast Claw because I like big monsters and monster trucks, and so here we are. Yeah, they very much are. They're the. It's not. I mean, it's a catchy saying, right? But it's not like literally always be charging. Usually, it's charge at the right moment and make sure you get those charges, because if you don't, you're significantly weaker on what you're going to be doing. And most of the changes to the book just juiced that idea up.
Yep.
So if you're playing ogres and something goes wrong, maybe you get outpositioned, you get outplayed, somebody else charges you and you're not the one charging, it's just as bad as it used to be, which was not good. Most of your new monster actions only work if you charge. You get bonus damage when you charge, you get impact hits when you charge, all this other stuff, right? And so it's a really it's one of those gambler play roulette sort of armies. You push all the chips in forward. If you get the charges, you might be in for some potentially unsatisfying games in a casual setting. Because if your army is all in on the charge and you do that, and then both players just roll priority and you get the double, you might just the game might be actually over, especially in a casual thing. And so I think a little unfortunately, maybe in casual settings, you're going to have the ogre player who gets all the charges that he wants and then rolls a double and the person is crushed, and it might not be too fun or maybe interesting or something like that. But that's the big risk, right? Because if you don't, then you're kind of crushed and you're like, well, okay, I'll just play better next time, and that's fine. But that was 7 of the battle reports that I watched over the weekend. Although they were featuring Iron Blasters and stuff, obviously, because thems are real good.
Sure.
So, yeah, if you're not trying to get the charge, you might just look for a different army, maybe. For the new players who are looking around and ooh, I really like charging and I like shooting big cannons, step into my office. You're going to have a great time. If you're trying to do almost anything else, maybe not.
It's interesting because this is a fairly different melee army, but it does feel like it's competitive with Iron Jaws, which is obviously the sort of preeminent melee only army out there right now. But I think this is a perfectly fine match for them.
Quite good now.
Yeah,
I think guts are quite good, and more than just maybe the best thing in the ogre book. But now, as we broaden out to the actual game of Age of Sigmar, they might be good in the game of Age of Sigmar now. and this will be a first for Gutbusters since the game began. Famous, just as deadly sayings notwithstanding, but yeah, it's time. All the Gutbuster players who have owned Iron Blasters for 6 years, waiting to put them on the table in a way that feels good, rejoice. This is your time. Please enjoy, actually.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because my super high level read, and Tom, I'm going to come to you in just a second.
Yeah.
Is they clearly want you. They don't see any difference between Gutbusters and BCR. Like, to them, that distinction's dead.
Yeah, and
this is
and
just
it's going,
Ogres.
and it's even more going away. Yeah, I think.
Right.
That's where we're being pushed. We put on the giant snapback tinfoil hat now, and yeah, looking at what they did and what they didn't do in this book, it's clear that you're just supposed to push the factions together and play a little bit of a mix.
Yep.
And didn't really bother with trying to really round out, ooh, I just want to play my own special unique guys or my little pet units or whatever. It's about producing one or two like pretty good army lists that can hit that 50-55% in that meta thing.
Yep.
And everything else, look, we got a lot of books to release, all right? It happened with a lot of 3rd edition tomes where people read the book, they got the old version in their left hand, they got the new version in their right hand, and they're like, oh, I feel so bad about this. But like the first time you read a book is the worst you're ever going to feel about all those changes. Because you're like directly comparing, oh, I wish this would have been updated or something was done on this and it didn't. But after a month, whenever you build a list, you're just taking the good stuff. And you're not even thinking about like that thing that you were disappointed about when you're doing it. And this has happened for most of the 3rd edition books now. You know, oh, it would have been nice if they did more with some of the subfactions in Lumineth. It would have been nice if they did more with some of the subfactions in SOB. It would have been nice if they did more with this or that in Fire Slayers or all these other books. But at the end of the day, there's one, sometimes as many as 3 highly decent or even great lists out of these books. They're performing well. And if you like the faction, play the good stuff and enjoy yourself.
Yep. Tom, what's your high level read?
There's mortal wounds everywhere.
Yeah, sure.
Just
good.
Like I know that sounds silly, but like, yes, they're high. They're going to be throwing damage around. We know that, right? They're big meaty fists. They have lots of damage profile, like high damage profiles. But just the raw amount of mortals really caught me out as I began to like survey all of the abilities. Like every other chart was on a 2+ D3 mortal, you know, on a 2+ D6 mortals, right? Like they, whether it's on a charge, whether it's after a charge with the monstrous rampage, whether it's a once per game ability, whether it's a gulping bites, right? Like all of it, just all of it is mortals. And I think that that's really going to add up, not unlike Nurgle, right? Like I think that the attrition from that is going to be way higher than what I think most people anticipate.
Yeah, over the weekend I got a game in a team game with new S2D, both of us playing S2D against a combination of ogres and Lumineth, and I basically paired off against the ogre guy and got it was more or less a pretty straight game there. Yeah, the classic pairing of Lumineth and ogres. Yeah,
time-honored tradition of ogre hand and high elf hand shaking.
Yeah,
absolutely. Just But what occurred to me as I was watching it unfold was actually how much of a nightmare ogres would be to Lumineth, right? Because the Lumineth player was running a like an Alarith or Eumetrica stone build, right? So we had Avlinor and Stone Guard and all the Stone Mage and basically everything you'd want in that list. And you know, my teammate who was fighting him was also running S2D and was running like a heavy cav version. So just like Ren 2 everywhere in the army, right? But just nothing to the Lumineth. I mean, he was just like bonk every time he bonk, right? Just accomplishing nothing. And all I could think was if those were ogres charging in equal amount, there just wouldn't be Lumineth units there anymore, right? because they would have just smashed them off the table because there's just
Like,
zero
pick up your
protection
toys,
for
mate.
that in the army.
Or
Right.
specifically Ren 3 off of the cannons in Undergods,
Sure,
which is
sure.
going to perfectly get around some of the Alorith stuff.
Absolutely. So, all right. Enough foreplay. Let's get into the actual thing.
Oh, pro tip for opponents. Consider not getting charged. The big one.
Yeah.
Chaff is your friend. If it's a thing you can do in your army,
Also, just roll sixes.
do that.
Indeed.
Okay. So, let's talk about their allegiance ability, shall we? So, ravenous brutes, they're still hungry and eating. That's what it is. It is what you think it is. 2 bravery, 2 move. It's like it was.
It's great. It's
Yep.
great.
Still
Any allegiance ability that says +2 move, basically always, I can't complain. It's fun. I like moving fast. Who doesn't?
Still good.
This is obviously for ogres, which is an important note because there are some units in this army that aren't ogres, and so those don't benefit from it. But still good. It's a good ability. It was a clever thing, and nicely they actually did a couple things with hungry and eating in the later rules.
I'm like, that's a callback. Okay. Good, very good. I like to see it. Maybe, turn that up.
Yeah, the previous book they introduced it and then did nothing with it. And I was like, okay.
There was like one artifact that called back to it. It was bad, but so now there's more. We're on the right path. Play the long game. Change is generational, all right?
Exactly. Gulping bites, which is what the secondary attack profile became, so that which this is how these kinds of things should be done. By the way, if like every cavalry unit ever just got a special rule that was just like, and then the ponies kick, and it was just like at the end of combat, roll a die and do a couple mortal
3 attacks, 4s and 4s, no rend instead of that waste of time. Yeah.
Yes. I hate secondary attacks that are just totally pointless, and because just a bunch of dice rolling for nothing, and obviously that's
hey, you'll be real excited with the Beast Claw section. We got all the punches and kicks you could possibly enjoy. Still, somehow, we're kicking.
Oh, I got it. Yeah, we're gonna get into that. But yes, this was a good change. Just if an enemy unit's within 3 inches of a Gutbuster Ogre unit at the end of the combat phase, on a 4-up, they suffer D3 mortals. Cool.
Yeah, I love it. When I'm reading rules, I'm often thinking about the length of Age of Sigmar games and the amount of trivial feeling things you can sometimes be doing. And when we are streamlining that, that is great. I didn't want to roll a bunch of bad attacks with no rend that have 1 inch reach and didn't really do anything. And at the end of the day, deals maybe 2 damage. At the end of combat, roll 1 die, 2 mortal wounds, we're done. Easy. Same damage, generally. Except mortal wounds, cool. Let's get on with it.
Beautiful change. Please, this streamlining, more of that.
Would have liked to heal, maybe, but can't.
Sure.
You're too much.
It certainly could have been a heal, but that's okay. That's for like the Minotaurs, I guess. Minotaurs do get to do that or something. I don't know. Okay. Might makes right. Still largely what it was before, but there is one very important change here. Yeah. Namely that friendly Ogre Mawtribes heroes now count as 5 models, whereas the ones without that aren't monsters count as 5, I should say. Whereas the monster ones count as 10, and all the other ogres are 2. Great. Good change.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's I agree. That's it makes perfect sense. I was hoping we would get that for the trampling charge, maybe give heroes on foot a 5-up or something, but there are ways to do that. It's fine. I like the change. Right exactly now might makes right feels worse than it ever will feel in the future, because you're going to be standing next to conquistadors triple capturing and just simply outdoing you. But GHB rules are seasonal. It's temporary. In the test games that I did over the weekend to pretend like I know what I'm talking about right now, I didn't even play with GHB specific rules because I'm thinking to the future. I'm not thinking to like next few months, maybe,
Yep. Yeah, we've jettisoned all the bounty hunters and expert conquerors stuff in my club here, my crew. The only thing we kept was the Battle Brothers thing, where you can fight in 2 ranks. because we're like, that's how the game just should work.
You mean
So we're just
you
like,
mean the beta test for 4th edition?
right,
Yeah.
exactly. We're like, let's just keep the obvious good rule, and then we can just jettison the rest of this crap because no one cares. Let's actually play with the units that like we all agree Bounty Hunters is dumb. Let's just stop using it. Okay, cool, great, we did that. Next, Trampling Charge. So I really like the change with Trampling Charge because even though on net it will mean sometimes you have a lower number, I feel that the vast majority of cases you will have a higher number. So, okay, how does this work?
True.
When a friendly Ogre or Rhinox unit makes a charge, you pick an enemy within an inch, one enemy unit within 1 inch, and you roll a number of dice equal to the unmodified charge roll. Every 6 up is a mortal wound. Now, you get to add 1 to that if the Ogre unit has 3 or more models. It used to be you got basically to do it on a 4-up, so add 2 to the roll, if you had 8 or more models, which is just like a way too high. Like, that was way too high.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
That is too many models. Okay?
Yep.
And so, but now with 3, basically that's all the units, so all your Gutbuster people will be charging in and doing it on a 5-up. Very respectable number. I like the 5-up. I take the Chaos Chariot because it has the exact same rule. It does it on a 5-up, and I've always found that to be completely respectable. There is a way to improve it further. And then your monsters still get their 4-up. So your big monster trucks still do it on a 4-up.
Yeah, and if you feel a little sad that, oh man, but I actually wanted to play the huge unit and get the 4-ups, have no fear. You can reacquire your 4-ups as we read on with the Gutbusters anyway.
Yes.
I'm a little sad that Mournfang have once again for the second book perfectly serpentined, dodged, and weaved to avoid half of the allegiance abilities somehow.
Yep.
Like Might Makes Right is real bad for them in units of 2. Your normal unit of Mournfang is a unit of 2, which exactly doesn't count for Trampling Charge.
Yep.
You can't get a banner or a hornblower anymore if you're in a unit of 2. They just can't hold on to anything. You got to go all in. You got to use 4 for 350 if you want to essentially use your allegiance stuff. But they got some sauce, so.
Yeah. Mournfang are so funny in how they keep being just like the you said it right, the serpentine path. They are the Neo of dodging allegiance abilities. They're just like not getting affected by any of it.
I have all the right keywords and yet I must sleep.
Yep. Grasp of the Everwinter is still bad and won't ever do anything, so we can just move on.
And it's exactly that. Gulping Bites only worse now.
Right.
So it's just like the same thing, you know? Gulping Bites, end of combat, D3 mortal wounds, Grasp of the Everwinter, start of your hero phase only.
Same
thing except worse.
Yep.
It's uninspiring.
Equal to or less than the battle round, so vast majority of the actual game it's harder to do. Happens less often, right?
Insanity.
Yeah, and it's just the same thing as Gulping Bites now. So we have basically the same rule printed twice in the Allegiance ability section for the 2 different subfactions, except one is just kind of worse. I would have liked to see something. I would like to see something. I'm not asking for a Tides of Death, although I for sure am. But hey, maybe next book.
Maybe next time, but that's okay. BCR players, fret not. You may still be stuck with crappy Grasp of the Everwinter, but I'm here to say that in fact you did get another Allegiance ability, and you got the second best Monstrous Rampage in the game.
True.
So, that ain't bad.
And it's actually pretty close. We thought that nothing would ever be better than Roar, but pretty close.
It is solid. So let's talk about it. Here we go. You get new Monstrous Rampages. They are keyed to 1 for Stonehorn, 1 for Thundertusk. As you mentioned, they are both triggered. You have to actually charge, so you can't just do them. A lot of people forget that one
with the Thundertusk one, but
and you can do them instead of your other Monstrous Rampages. Okay, fine, great, cool. What do they do? Well, let's start with Unstoppable Charge. Only Stonehorns. When only a Stonehorn that's made a charge move. Basically, remember the timing of this. This is at the end of the charge phase. So you've charged in. Let's say you've nailed
So
that
good.
the standard 7-inch charge, right? You rolled the 7 on the dice. Completely average number. So you've done 3 or 4 mortal wounds to some unit you just charged into because of the trampling charge. Now it's time for you to monstrous rampage. So you will select unstoppable charge, at which point you will roll 3d6 dice. You can move and can pass across enemy units in the same manner as a unit that can fly.
Yep.
And you have to finish the move. You must finish the move within 3 inches of any enemy unit. So you got to stay in combat, which is fine.
Yeah.
Good. That's where I wanted to be anyways.
True.
Go on.
And at the end of the move, you roll a dice for each unit it passed across. On a 2-up, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So let's just make this as simple as possible. Here's the person's, like, this is your standard sort of player that thought nothing about this ability. Yeah. Here's their chaff line, and then here's a unit they care about, here's a unit they care about, here's a character they care about. You charge their chaff line, you do some mortal wounds to it, you roll your 3d6, you drift over the top of the chaff unit, over the top of the side unit, and land yourself right there facing their special hero unit. You've jumped their line, you've done some splash mortal wounds to those 2 units, and now you're fighting the thing that they were trying to protect. Now you have to be able to land 120 mil base back there so people can counterplay it, obviously.
Yeah, your opponent has to kind of let you do it, which I've seen many times happen in the battle reports that I've watched over the weekend, and they'll learn. The first time people play against anything new, it's a big shock, and then they learn. But this is fun. I have 2 important things to say about this. First, notice how you're not rolling a dice to see if you can even do this.
I know.
Yeah.
You just roll a 3d6. It's not like 3 up and then you roll the 3d6 and then you roll for the D3 mortal wounds. You're just doing it. Have I rolled a 3 when I was trying to do something really clever with this? Yes. Was it still good actually? Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
It was the same as how I used to be. I even got my D3 mortal wounds as if I had chosen Stomp.
Right.
And
yeah, like if you come into the pocket, like the meeting of 2 or 3 units, even like a 3.
It's every unit that you fly over.
Right. Yeah. So you just like move up and move back, and you're like, I'm good. I clipped everybody.
You'll take D3, you take D3, and finally you. And okay, now we fight. Oh, actually, we don't fight at the beginning of combat. I'm gonna Metal Crunch. Okay, now we finally fight. All right, now I'm ready. And the other thing I really like about this reminds me of the Sons of Behemoth Battletome. This reminds me of a particular rule, the suplex in the SOB book, which was them. We talk about psychographic profiles sometimes on the Warhammer Weekly show, and about like trying to get into the mind of the type of brain that is going to want Army A instead of Army B.
Yep.
And you look at Sons of Behemoth, and I didn't think about this before, and I probably should have. They're like, what if it was like WWE, super Japanese wrestling, lucho? We're just doing combos. We're power bombing people. It is the absolute perfect demo for that type of person. And here we have monster trucks. Yep, you did it. That's the person who wants to play Stonehorns, is a bunch of monster trucks. So absolute bullseye.
And monster trucks love nothing more than driving over other things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm a fan. It's fun to play. It's very strong. I've played a bunch of games over the weekend. This is the real deal. It's the good stuff. This is part of the reason why you want to play Beast Claw, if you want to play Beast Claw. It's stuff like this. And it's sweet. Anyway, sorry.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. As you say, yeah, it's amazing. Like this happened to me many times. My opponent in this mentioned game had had a Frost Lord on Stonehorn, and he loved it. He was just like, every time he could, he was just like, yay, running around. Right now, I mean, he didn't just drop it in the middle of my line because I knew this was here, but he still did a bunch of mortal wounds and put himself in positions he wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, I'm usually not the just roll 6s Warhammer community article kind of guy. But if you're rolling 18 on this thing, there's probably nothing your opponent could have done to position to stop you from doing what is going to happen.
No.
Yeah, you're
Time
just
to
flying.
Start. I just ran over your army, so I've dropped an 18. I've started rolling my D&D character, so let's just move on to that.
Exactly. And then finally, for the Thunder Tusk, you get Chill of the Everwinter. Again, if you made a charge move. You roll a dice for each enemy unit within 1 inch of this unit. On a 3-up, the Strike Last effect applies to that unit until the end of the following combat phase. Which is, again, actually a very potent Monstrous Rampage, because it works on multiple units doing old school 3-up Slanesh Strike Last. Okay. Right. The thing that, like, we got pounded into the dust for having. Now you have it here. The problem is that it's on, let's be honest, probably, as we'll see later, probably not the unit you actually wanted to take necessarily into combat. This is the challenge.
And also, like, Strike Last effects are so good because you get to capitalize on them.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get to go first and you get to go second, and then I deal a bunch of damage to you and maybe kill you, like, that's powerful. If I get to go first and you get to go second, and I deal on average statistically 2 damage in combat, like if I do 2 damage to you, and then I'm like, okay, now it's your turn. That was an average roll. And you're like, oh, man, I was briefly afraid because I'm striking last, but I guess you didn't do anything, and then I'll just hurt you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they're
big combos of driving a bunch of trucks into stuff.
Sure.
But, so you could do that. You could have 1,300 points all attacking one thing at once. But I don't know.
Yeah.
This is very much
it needs to piece.
Yeah, this very much needs to be part of a combo. When we look at Thunder Tusks,
yeah.
To me, this is like, this guy isn't going in alone and then fighting. He needs to be part of something else where you're trying to put him in the pocket, make multiple units go last, and then have the other combo units all get to fight first, basically.
Yeah. And if it's part of a combo, you're throwing a lot of money at that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure about it. I tried it out on the table, and it worked out about as well as I thought about it in theory crafting.
Yeah, it's going to be matchup dependent too. Like, there's some things that you really want to make strike last. You know, I think about things like, I don't know, Gargants. But things that are going to be very heavy, right, and that just have to be removed. And so I think it will be matchup dependent. It'll probably be suboptimal most of the time.
Yeah. There is one silver lining, though. If you want to make this work somehow, the best thing I could think of was a buddy cop movie between a Thunder Tusk and a unit of Iron Guts.
Sure.
Because Iron Guts have, as we'll see later, pile in twice, but their second pile in is a strikes last.
Oh, yeah.
But if they're fighting something that is striking last and it's your turn, well, you're going to get to activate twice before they are. And so that's, to me, if you absolutely positively have to play a Thunder Tusk somehow, Iron Guts are the partner for that one. And they're the old grizzled partner, and the Thunder Tusk is the young, hotshot new kid.
Yep.
Agreed.
He's kind of bad at everything.
Let's keep going. All right. Let's talk about some command traits. So, we're split up here between our Gutbusters and our Beast Claw. As usual, I'm not going to talk about all of these. Instead, we're just going to highlight what we think are actually interesting ones.
Yeah.
So, Haywo, what's your pick out of this command trait list? What's your top pick? Your hot pick?
Okay, so luckily they've given Gutbusters a single trait. They printed one trait here, and it's both fun and good. This is the combo that I like when I'm looking for traits, and it is Killer Reputation. Tyrant only. Before this general is set up for the first time, you can pick an additional big name for them. The big name cannot be the same as their first big name. No Marios over here. And spoiler alert, the two you will be choosing are Fate Seeker and Death Cheater. Unless you're memeing with Kragnos, then it will be Brawler Gods. But there you go. That's the fun one. It's very good at making a tyrant very hard to get killed. That's useful. Unfortunately, there were no other ones printed in this book. And if you're not trying to play a tyrant in Gutbusters, depending on your list, hey, Master of Magic is right around the corner.
Okay, Tom, what's your pick here?
I mean, it sounded fun. The extra name.
I mean, I got one for you. If you, I'll let you think for a moment. Mine's easy.
I mean, okay, go ahead.
Touched by the Everwinter. I love making people priests. The problem with the priests in this army is that they're very expensive.
Sorry, I thought you only meant the Gutbuster one.
Oh no, we're talking
yeah,
both.
Yeah,
the whole page.
Yeah. Sorry, I was looking
okay.
at. I was
That's
looking
why
at.
everyone was waiting. I didn't. Okay.
No, all good, all good. I didn't want to steal. I didn't mean to steal your Everwinter thunder.
No, you are quite correct. Go on.
No,
yeah,
yes,
I mean,
yes.
Touched by the Everwinter
That is
wonderful.
the right answer.
Yeah, your priests, your priests are cool. Your actual prayer lore you'll get is not bad. It has a good option in it that has some stuff it can do. And it's not that the priests have bad spells, it's just that you're generally overpaying for them. They're quite expensive for priests.
Yeah.
But if I can just make my Frost Lord a priest, better. Just better.
Yeah, anytime that you can add a keyword like that to a unit, that's pretty good. There's not really another way to add priest to a unit. And so I'm a big fan, obviously, of that with touch by the Everwinter. And there's and these people are likely going to be in the mix anyways, right? And so it just raises some really interesting possibilities with things like Curse, because they're already in combat. I mean, they don't have to be, obviously, to have a Beastclaw hero, but that's something that's interesting to me.
They'll generally be close where they could actually capitalize on using it.
Yeah, and the balancing part of Curse is that it has a very short range, and there aren't many priests who want to get that close or can live until their hero phase when they're that close. But Frostwind and Stonehorn can often live when he's that close.
Yes.
There isn't much in the game actually that lifts him in a turn.
It's the auto choice. I play it in anything I'm running a Frostlord general in. I'm choosing it. It's awesome. It's fun. I generally take the heal. You don't have to. You can take the Speedy Boy move thing, although it's probably you got plenty of movement. You can take the laser cannon that you have to hit on 3s and 2s for if you just want even yet more random incidental mortal wounds to be happening. You can take the Yeti one if you've made a mistake and accidentally your pen slipped and you circled that one, but don't worry, you can erase it. It's awesome. Yeah, it's sweet. Voice of the Avalanche is underrated, but will never be chosen, because issuing a command to anyone on the entire battlefield is actually very excellent. It's very cool. A lot of stuff in the Beastclaw army is inexplicably incapable of giving itself a command because it does not have a unit champion, nor is it a lead. A lot of stuff in the Beastclaw half is like that. And so Voice of the Avalanche is sort of like your duct tape fix to that problem. But I still don't take it, and I make the priest anyway, probably.
Sure. But yes, I agree. Voice the Avalanche is also a solid second choice. I do want to give a shout out here real quick to the weirdos in the world, okay? Because I like when they write command traits for weirdos, all right? They should do more of it.
Packmaster?
What? Look, okay.
Every other one?
Gastromancer is just something I'm never going to take because I don't care. Right, I probably didn't need that many spells, right? Even if I'm in whatever, I didn't need it. You can just you can have command traits that are just bad, and you can't picture the person who wants to use it, right? But ex-mercenary, all right, there is a player who loves ex-mercenary because they got all the old man-eater sculpts, and they just want to play with their man-eaters, and they don't care that they're bad. They just think they're super cool because they are very flavorful, unique sculpts.
Spoiler alert, they're bad.
They are bad, yeah, still. Yeah, they're bad. But that's okay, because, hey, for that weirdo, this command trait opens up a whole new way to play the army, right? That you can make all your weird man-eaters battle line. That's cool, right? That's, I don't care about the power level of command traits. There can be a couple that are good competitively. If the other ones are there opening up, weird ways or fun ways to build the army and play, who cares if they're not the competitive choices? They're fun, right? Do stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, not everything needs to be amazing, but everything does need to be fun or maybe have a point.
Yep.
And that has a point. It does something. It changes fundamentally your army construction in a fun way, right? If you've got the ninja and the pirate and all those different dudes, and you're like, yes, now I get to finally use these guys, and they're gonna be my main force. Like,
I'm going to explain to my opponent what Empire is because they won't know.
right. I'm thrilled for that player. Like, awesome. They have an option. Good for them. Do more stuff like this, GW, please. Okay? Like that's the kind of stuff I want to see. Is using command traits to open the door to new army builds that allow for that kind of just fun play. Because most people don't ever go to a tournament. They just want to play the army they want. So, all right. Let's talk artifacts. Okay. Hey, well, again, both lists. What's your hot pick on the artifact list? What you looking at here?
All right. Well, artifacts are they're a step up on the Gutbuster side. I think you have more than one over here. The first one, though, is Gruesome Trophy Rack. Fan favorite from the last book. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Gutbuster units wholly within 12 of the bearer that target a monster or a hero. And this is great, even though all-out attack exists, because it's free real estate. You don't spend that. Also, there are certain individual units that you would like to target all 4 of. Spoilers ahead. But yeah, Gruesome Trophy Rack is great. Gives a nice little aura. Notice how, unlike before, it is not Tyrant only. It used to be Tyrant only. And that was the reason anyone ever took a Tyrant, ever. There's still a good reason to take a Tyrant. But yeah, Gruesome Trophy Rack is great. Just what you want. Put them around some cannons. Or just like be near something that's fighting a hero or monster. And +1, it's a synergy is what I'm saying. It's sometimes hard to find synergies in some of these books. But we got one. And it's a good one. Flask of Stonehorn Blood is like maybe an okay second choice.
Yep.
To keep like a particular butcher alive on a particular turn that he's getting targeted by something, so you can do a combo because it gives you a 3-up ward during a specific phase, and it's kind of reminds me a little bit of Cloak of Darkness from IDK back in the day,
Sure.
where you could blank something. But your second choice is probably Arcane Tome.
Sure.
As far as
I don't hate Flask of Stonehorn Blood because I agree. It's like it's like a.
You have a plan when you're taking this an artifact
right,
like this.
Right.
You have yourself a diagram that you're going to follow. And you're like, you know what? This is going to keep this alive for this exact moment to do this. It's the Johnny choice in a sense.
Sure. I'm trying to think of the exact magic counterspell that would perfectly, like which variant counterspell exactly fits this story, but it's buying you a turn.
Teferi's
right?
Protection.
Yeah, it's a tempo play.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
like, it's a counter that bounces it back to their hand.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Remand, right? Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
There you go. Yes. Our favorite remand.
Maybe it's Teferi's Protection if you're playing Commander or something. Like, oh,
Sure.
I'm not dead this turn. Give me one more turn.
Right.
So, in the Beast Claw artifacts, we lost our best artifact, which is very sad. Skull Shards of Dragar. And this artifact has a history. There's a story behind it. In the first Beast Claw book, it was Skull of Dragar. In the first Ogre book after that, it was the Skull Shards of Dragar. So the thing is slowly deteriorating over time.
It's breaking.
And now it's gone. We used it too much. We overused it. I used it once a game, auto unbind. Saved my bacon every single game I ever played with Beast Claw. Very important. So that's gone. And in exchange for that, we have nothing. So we're taking the old Arcane Tome, unless you're trying to
have
light laser with
you
elixir.
have Frost Talon Shard Bolts now.
Yeah.
That's where the shards went. They went into the one shot of the of the hunter.
Yes.
I promise I won't.
The worst artifact maybe printed so far in 3.0.
Yeah, that was the one if anybody's watched my meme that I made. And I was the scientist creating the worst artifact you've ever seen. This is the one I was thinking of right here.
No, I mean,
if you want to go to the hunter's attack profile, he has 1 attack with his crossbow.
1.
So
he has 2 ranged weapons, but so he has the crossbow, which has 1 shot. And so when you roll to hit with that 1 crossbow shot, if you get a 6, it does D3 mortal wounds. The thing hits on a 4 normally. It's just the worst. It's just comically
so
bad.
what would make it worse is if it stopped the attack progress. If it was a D3 mortal and you don't do anything else.
It is in addition.
It is an addition. It could be worse.
Yeah.
But like when I looked over this list, I was like, you know what? I don't know. That Icebrow Hunter, man, if you were throwing 3 attacks on that, that's not terrible. Like that, like you have my interest. And I went and looked at it and I was like, oh no. Oh no.
Here's what's so funny about that. Ready? I'm going to rewrite this artifact right now, and into a like vastly superior version that you'd still never take. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Frost Talon Shard Bolts. If you hit with the Hunter's Crossbow, you deal D3 mortal wounds in addition to your normal damage. All right? That's it. Just all the time. So I've gotten rid of the hit on a 6 and just said, like, if you hit, you get a bonus D3 mortals.
Yeah, I mean, it hits on a 4, so, like, that's still a 50-50 only, right?
I would still never take that artifact. That's a statement of how bad this is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, not only is it hitting on a 50-50, the other half of that is you're within 12.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it is the shorter range of 2 attacks, yeah.
Well, no, it's a longer, but
is it the longer one?
9 and 12.
Yeah. Worse? Oh no.
Yeah, so it's the longer one, but still, you have to be within 12, and on a 4-up, you do a D, like even in that superior form.
It's trash. Let's stop talking about it. Okay.
Yeah,
see,
right.
if you're forced to, you take the Seed of Alvagar, right?
Yeah.
Because so that way you can do 2.
If you haven't bought the core book and you don't know about universal artifacts, you take Seed of Alvagar to set up a cool, fun combo during the game that's actually very good.
Yeah,
maybe
it is,
a like platform if you're trying to meme over how many mortal wounds you can possibly do.
Yeah.
But
I do think that Seed of Alvagar is not bad because you're not going to have a huge number of chances probably with your Frostlord to do your stompy go over the top.
And what's better than driving over people and then roaring after you're in the new position?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
You can use that second one after that movement. So that's the choice if you don't know about the core book.
Right.
Or I kind of like 2D3 mortals, stomp and then rampage.
Oh sure.
Sure. If you're just trying to really like
stomp and like Titanic Duel, like you could do the Titanic Duel and get yourself bonuses against another monster, right?
Yeah.
It's just hard to ever say no to roar, but yes. It's options.
Mortal wounds to taste. Sometimes your opponent has run out of command points, and then it's perfectly legitimate.
Absolutely. Yep. Or sometimes you might be in a couple fights and you actually need to roar somewhere else. Like you do have a lot of monsters. You often have multiple chances at roar. So
if you're trying to satisfy your battle tactics, and you need every single ogre keyword in combat on the same turn, you might be roaring. You might be using up your roar somewhere else. Absolutely. I mean.
All right. So. Stock spell lores. Okay, so we got.
Before we go in, can I make just a general observation?
Yeah.
Can we drop the balloons on the fact that we only have 1 cast on 7? Oh, everything else is 6 or lower.
Yeah, it used to be 7s across the board.
Right, like we did it.
Mm-hmm.
Victory achieved. Like they can actually cast spells again.
5, 6, 6, 7. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And
when your butchers are not standing next to within 1 inch of the maw pot when they have played the game and moved up, they still have a pretty good chance of succeeding at those spells.
Right.
And I will say my favorite spell is the lowest casting value. So I don't know what's up with that, but hey, there we are.
The most powerful one by far, and it's not even remotely close, is the easiest one to cast.
Yeah.
And it's not because it's the easiest one to cast.
As usual, GW continues to be very bad at setting casting value for spells. No one is surprised, but that's okay. All right, let's talk about these 4 spells. We can just do all 4 of these real quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Blood Feast, cast on a 7, range of 18. If successfully cast, you pick a friendly ogre unit that's not a monster. Stop trying to have fun. And that's within range and visible. And you get to add 1 to the attack's characteristic of that unit's melee weapons. Okay. That's a powerful spell. Like, that deserves to be on a 7. Obvious, like, we've talked about Iron Guts and Gluttons, both of whom are good. Both of whom can benefit from this. both of whom, if you're their opponent, you do not want this spell to go off on those units because it is a bad day for you. Like, it's a super powerful buff. It's a shame it can't go on monsters. I don't know why BCR is not allowed to have fun, but it's still a great spell.
Or you've targeted your Rhinoxes, who are not yet monsters.
Sure.
And then you turn them into monsters, and then you cast Molten Entrails on them. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get for the max memes, right?
Yep.
Blubbergrub Stench, casting value of 5 and a range of 18. If successfully cast till the start of your next hero phase, while they're wholly within range of the caster, friendly Rhinox units are treated as monsters for the purposes of trampling charge, contesting objectives, and carrying out monstrous rampages.
Sounds
the obvious
great.
It's amazing. All the 3 things you want to be monsters for.
That's big.
And your obvious target for this is your shooty cannon chariot. Like, that's what you're putting this on.
Every cannon within range, not just you don't need to pick one. It's all
That's right.
All of them become monsters. Yes.
Yep. Suddenly you have a whole bunch of boys standing around counting as 10, charging in, doing a ton of mortal wounds after they shot at people, and everybody's rampaging. Just rampaging everywhere.
And the objective you just charged has 40 models on it now.
Right.
That's real good. That's really very good. I read Blood Feast, and I'm like, this is a very strong force multiplying buff. When you're adding extra attacks to dudes with multi-damage weapons, you're getting extra value out of it. I read Blubberglub. Okay.
Yeah.
Outshone. Okay.
Yes.
Molten Entrails. Casting value of 6 and a range of 18 inches. You get to pick one friendly Ogre Mawtribes monster.
Yeah, so that doesn't actually qualify.
Only
so
within
even
range.
if they're treated as monsters by Blubberglub.
Yeah.
But
true.
But
invisible.
it's
Until
still
the start of your
good.
next hero phase, add 1 to the damage characteristic of melee weapons used by that monster's mount. So, which is obviously
fun.
where a lot of the damage lives anyways. +1 to damage on your already high damage mount that already often will gain bonuses to damage when charging anyways. So now you have more damage on more damage. Stacks on stacks is good. Turns out going to like damage 4 or 5, actually good.
Yeah.
Weird.
That's a good one.
And then Greasy Deluge, it's neg 1 to hit on a unit.
With a pretty decent range, actually.
Yeah.
It's not a bad spell. I don't have anything bad to say about it.
Nope.
Someone might take it sometimes as their second or maybe third spell. It's useful. No complaints.
In my estimation, we went 4 for 4 here on reasonable choices. These are all good spells. They all have valid lists they fit in. They all do something.
Yeah, who knew you would open up the Ogre Destruction book and the spell lore would be great.
Yeah. Like, this has a higher hit rate than most of the Magic books we've looked at.
Yeah.
All right, Lore of the Sun Eater for your Fire Belly. I mean, the important part here to discuss is Billowing Ash. Like, he has a couple of damage spells. They do damage in different ways.
Yep.
That's fine. Like, they're not bad or anything. They are what they are. But Billowing Ash now has a casting value of 6 and a range of 12. And until the start of your next hero phase, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target friendly units while they're wholly within range of the caster. So the casting value went down. Neg
By
1
2.
to hit. Big aura of neg 1 to be hit. It's great.
Yeah.
Like, good spell.
You really might take a Fire Belly sometime.
Right.
And Billowing Ash is a highly decent spell. Don't Alpha Strike me, bro, I guess. As long as you get a turn first.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
So, like, actually legitimately good. Putting a massive bubble of neg 1 to hit is, it turns out solid. So, there we go. Okay. As we all know, when you want magic, you come to the Ogres, for they have the best spells.
Hey, we're open for business. And Meat Magic is back on the menu.
You know, I think why I think the Ogre lores in general are pretty good and why they work. Because they kept, look at like Tzeentch or Lumineth. They're trying to do too much complicated crap. Because top down, the way they design stuff, they're the high magic armies, right? So they have to be doing like wacky, weird, like the more words we put here and the more complicated we make the effect, the more magical it is. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if you read a spell, this is true in like D&D as well, right? You read a spell and it has like half a page of text. You're like, oh, this is a real spell. This is serious magic, right?
Oh, polymorph. Okay, that's a whole page. All right.
Right. Yeah. Like this is real magic.
Yeah.
This is something that has
Mhm.
like interesting power to it. But but like fireball's fireball for a reason or whatever. You know what I mean? Or like they with this they were like, oh, we need simple magic, so we'll just make it rock solid foundational simple buffs
Yeah.
and utility. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's actually what makes magic good.
You have
Yeah.
my attention.
Good old rock. Nothing beats rock.
Yeah.
Oh, I should mention that there used to be a spell, which was our best spell before, called Rib Cracker. And it gave us, well, actually, it was a debuff. 18-inch range. Target enemy unit has -1 to its armor saves, sort of like technically giving us rend for anybody dogpiling that unit. And you might think, oh man, it sucks they took our best spell away. Not really. Well, for Gutbusters, they just transferred it. You get it for free now.
Yeah.
It's free realistic.
Automatically on your
Yeah.
gluttons.
Most of your Gutbuster units that you want to play with just magically attained +1 rend, and so it's sort of like you get a free Rib Cracker on all your guys every turn. Just think about it that way.
Cool.
For the people playing Rib Cracker in BCR, get wrecked, idiots. But hey, I guess you could play Molten Entrails or something. That's still good.
Still good. You're not going to be hurting for damage on like your Frost Sword. It's cool. He can still hold his own.
You will not.
Yeah, that guy still does a lot of work. In my game, I kind of like had to bait him out. So yeah, because obviously I couldn't just let him get into most of my army. So I was like, well, sorry, unit of Chaos Knights, you get to be sacrificed. And they went out, they killed something, and then just like he charged them, and just his first attack profile lifted the entire unit of knights. All right.
Okay,
Cool.
Sometimes you're Chaos Chosen, but that's not your unit name. You were chosen to take the hit.
Prayers, we mentioned them a little bit earlier, but we'll talk about them here quickly. You've got Pulverizing Hailstorm, which is a like pick a point on the battlefield and then do some mortal wounds to everybody around that. Perfectly reasonable. It's only a 3-inch bubble, so you're maybe getting like 2, maybe 3 units in the perfect situation. But it is a 2-up for D3 mortals. So honestly, by the terms of prayers, not bad.
It's
Longer
kind of
range
like
than most damage prayers too.
Oh, sorry.
You're good.
It's kind of like a weapon. It hits on 3s and wounds on 2s. Just think about it that way.
Yep, exactly. It's just an 18-inch range attack that hits on 3s and wounds on 2s, and you can't move when you use it. Yes. Keening Gale is, I think, the one that a lot of people will end up utilizing fairly often if they're not utilizing the ones on scroll. Which, by the way, there are actually some good prayers on the scroll when we get there.
Good, even.
Yeah. It's actually shot like the Thundertusk priests have, I should say the Huskard priests. I'm sorry, have like 2 prayers and. Yeah, they're actually good. But here you can pick a monster or Mournfang pack and give them +3 inches to their move. I agree with you. Sometimes that will be unnecessary. I think it's more interesting for Mournfang than it is for your monsters who are already like blindingly fast. Most of the time, you just get wherever you want to go as the monster trucks. But I think the Mournfang actually the 3 inches does make a big deal to their overall offensive threat. So it's not a bad prayer.
Yeah, it's also one of those good late game prayers where it's turn 4, everybody's super wounded, you're looking at your damage chart and you're moving at like 6 or something, and it's a nice utility, help me out here, Keening Gale, to get to an objective or something like that. Or it's one of those, I have a plan and I'm trying to play 6 Mournfang and run and charge them as an alpha strike, and I think that's going to work or something like that. I don't know if it will work, and then there's Call the Blizzard, which features Yetis, and you don't play those, so.
Okay. And there's Call the Blizzard's like just skip. That might as well just be Ipsum Lorem text. Like, okay, cool, neat. Next. Let's talk about mount traits. Obviously you get 1 normally on your Stonehorn or Thundertusk. You can get 3 in Boulder Head, whatever, Thunder, Boulder, whatever the monster one is.
Absolutely correct. Boulder Head was right.
There we go. Got it in 1. They all sound alike to me. In the Meat Blood Thunder Boulder subfaction, you get 3. So the fascinating thing about mount traits to me is that they went 66% on both of these for things I would ever think about taking. Okay.
Yeah.
So Metal Cruncher is still Metal Cruncher, except 4+ save disappeared, and now it's only 3 up, 2 up, or 1 up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a difference in how it will perform. It didn't perform any different against me when I went into him with my all 3 up slaves army. Like, everybody in the army was a 3 up save. I'm like, yay, I have a 3 up save now. And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it too.
Well, I mean, it's just Metal Cruncher scales with the privilege of your opponent's rules,
Yes.
I guess.
Yes. So yeah, it's still good. Like, it still certainly does work against hard to damage opponents.
I want to know what 1-up units out there are floating around, but that's what I want to know.
Bastiladon.
Yeah, Bastiladon.
Finally, we get
Sure.
Bastiladon. The comeuppance deserves, I guess.
Yep.
That's the only 1-up save I can think of, actually, in the whole game. There might be one more.
There is one more. Nope, don't remember, but there is one more. But yes, Bastiladon's the ones that actually anybody uses. Cool. Why isn't the Steam Tank a 1-up save? That's like, you want to talk about that Cities of Sigmar journey? Next time, Steam Tank 1-up save. Steam Tanks used to have a 1-up save, by the way. That was a thing back in the day. Yeah. They were the unit with a 1-up save because you were driving a steel tank onto a battlefield full of dudes with swords and lances and stuff.
Yeah, and like chainmail and stuff. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways. And then the other one you're going to take, the actual one you're going to take first every time, you're going to take it on your Frostlord on Stonehorn, and it is going to be so good, as that is Rock Main Elder. Subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks that target this unit. Attacks. Not melee attacks.
Not just melee.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one you take first. Sorry, Metal Cruncher, but a huge percentage of all the units in the entire game just became not crunchable, so I'm taking Rockmane Elder. It's awesome. It makes the Stonehorn even more preposterously durable. Hey, I mean, these are expensive monsters. When one dies, that's a big chunk of your army.
Yeah.
What if it didn't die? What about that? And then what if it was a priest and it healed itself on your turn? Heroic recovery. And then you emptied the Maw Pod. Anyway, seems pretty good. If you're taking 2 Stonehorn, like Frost Lords, then you take Metal Cruncher, and you're pretty happy about it. It's just a target priority issue. You just send them after the heroes. No big deal.
Yep.
If you're taking 3, you're not. You're just not. Because Belligerent Charger, I became belligerent when I first read it, actually, because it doesn't do anything.
Nope, it's terrible.
It just doesn't do anything. But points went up, so it's hard to fit 3 monsters into a list anyway. I'm not sweating it.
Mm-hmm.
And then over on the Thundertusk side, you have this unit has a ward of 5 up. In Rhyme Frost side.
Found a winner. It's that one.
Yep. So if you want your Thundertusk to actually feel a little more Stonehorny, if you're missing that 5 up ward save, well, hey, guess what? It's back, baby.
Yeah. You know how you make magic decks and they're tribal? You got tribal goblins, tribal elves. Well, I like to build Age of Sigmar armies that are tribal 5 up ward.
Yep.
Just everything's got a 5 up ward. I like that. But I don't want to look gross like Nurgle, so here we are.
And then the other one that's actually not bad. Like in most accounts, this would be a perfectly valid mount trade. I just don't think you'll ever get to it. But I do want to shout it out as being not bad, and that's Matriarch, which is add 1 to charge rolls for friendly Thundertusk units wholly within 12 of this unit. I suppose if you're like the Thundertusk guy who wants to run all Thundertusks, a model that isn't really prone to charging into combat, but you really want to do that.
Yeah.
+1 to charge is good. So
you're playing a list called Beyond the Thundertusk, Mad Max, and hey, I guess you're going to charge all of them now. That could be cool. Spoiler, you're not, though. So
right.
If Thundertusks were different, like in a different timeline in Marvel, where Thundertusks were like a monster that could perform damage in melee, you could totally see taking this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, Flesh Greed, the problem with it is you have to actually be eating at the start of the hero phase. Now, it is each hero phase, which is cool. But you have to actually be eating, and your Frost Lord shouldn't really be in combat at the start of the hero phase because whatever they fought should have been dead.
Well, it is a Thundertusk.
Sorry, not your Frost Lord. Yeah, your Frost Lord on Thundertusk, but you can still take that, yeah. So, okay. I have that in there twice. Whoops. There we go. All right. talk about them tribes. Subfactions. Let me timestamp this one real quick.
Let's talk about the glow up on almost everyone.
Yes. Let's
The
talk
absolute
about
glow up.
let's talk about winning. Okay.
Talk about winning. You will be sick of winning. You won't even
Yes.
like it anymore after this.
Meat Fist. Add 1 to each roll made for the trampling charge battle trait by friendly Meat Fist Gutbuster units. So, takes that 5 up, makes it a 4 up. That doesn't apply to the monsters, but don't worry, there is one exception where you can get to a 3 up, which we will get to in the list building phase.
Okay, good. I was about to say, yep.
We'll save that. We're teasing that for later.
Yeah, there's a combo.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Good. Awesome. Like, if you're Mr. Gutbuster and you want to just run, like, big packs of gluttons and just murderize everybody you charge into, yep. This is a pretty good way to do it.
This is actually a good tribe. I understand that Iron Blasters are what everyone will play, and Underguts is what everyone will play, but Meatfist Mawtribe is a good tribe.
Yeah, if you like MSU, Iron Guts,
been...
Lead Belchers, Gluttons, stuff like that, it's fantastic.
This thing could have been trash like it was in the last book, but they decided to make it fun and good. Great work.
Yeah.
Also, in the lore, it's the most powerful tribe, and so it was kind of... it felt weird that it was the worst tribe, but good work, fixed the problem. I'm all in.
Blood Gullet, much like it used to be, like it retained basically its functionality from what it had before, which is friendly Blood Gullet Butchers know 1 extra spell from the lore of Gut Magic, and in addition, each Blood Gullet Butcher can attempt to cast 1 extra spell in your hero phase. So if you want to capitalize on what is legitimately a good spell lore, here you are. There you go. We still have a minor problem of you needing to stand uncomfortably close to the pot to get your casting bonus, but you can cast more spells, and casting more spells is generally good when your lore is actually full of good spells you wanted to cast. So great.
Yeah.
Underguts, I agree. This will be the popular one out of the gate. Like this, amongst, by the way, these are all good so far. There's no losers. I think
it's just great. It's just wonderful to see. You see book after book of Subfactions, and you look at the 3 choices you get, and you're like, well, this is the one that does something, and these are the 2 that do nothing.
Right.
Well, not so with this book. All 3 good and fun. Yeah, there's a clear winner, but all 3 are good and fun. That's all I want.
Underguts improve the rend characteristic of missile weapons used by friendly Underguts Lead Belchers and Underguts Iron Blasters units by 1. Whoo! So your Lead Belchers become rend 2, but most importantly, your Iron Blaster becomes rend 3.
And possibly more important than that, the Iron Blaster's super shotgun from Doom 2 Hell on Earth becomes Rend 2 with 10 attacks.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. You're going to see a fair amount of them Iron Blasters moving around. They're back, which there were many times in the history of Ogres, by the way, since their launch. This is another thing, Halo, where those Iron Blasters were just the worst nightmare you could ever see on the table. Okay.
Yeah, somebody told me about that in fantasy, where they're like, these things were so good in fantasy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, word, okay.
It kind of went up and down over time since the kit's launch. Like, it had to do with how good artillery was at that moment and what the rules were for how cannons worked. But in 8th edition, the way you... so hilarious. I'll explain this real quick. Not all of our viewers might know. In early Warhammer, the way a cannon worked was... You looked at your cannon, and then you looked across the table, okay? And you said, all right, I'm going to target my cannon 32 inches. And then you would after you had dictated all of your artillery's ranges like that, you would then get out a tape measure and measure out 32 inches. You'd set down a little die or something on that point on the battlefield that you would just like had to eyeball. And then you would roll your little artillery dice, which showed 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and misfire. Okay. And then you would add that to the initial shot. Okay. And then you would roll it again, and that's how far it bounced. And everything between that, the call plus the first roll and the distance of the second roll gets hit by the cannonball.
So the answer is 6 inches off the back of the unit.
Well, no, because you couldn't do that. That wasn't... That wasn't how it worked. You had
Sure.
to
Well,
nominate
sure.
a distance originally. Okay.
Sure.
Then later they changed it so you didn't have to guess. Once they introduced pre-measuring, you're allowed to measure everything. So now all that mattered was the dice roll. So everybody would just say 10 from the back.
Or 10
Like,
from the back, rather.
10 from the back. That's the call. Just 10 from the back. And so cannons were heat-seeking laser-guided missiles, because unless you rolled the 1, they were going into the unit. Right? And just plowing through people with these things. So Iron Blasters were just awful because they were like the strongest cannons. So you could just target these laser cannons at people and just Akira down anything you wanted, right? So there you go.
Also,
Fun.
you're going to be seeing a lot of complaints online about Iron Blasters, I declare. And you'll be seeing a lot of people poking fun at Ogre players, suddenly becoming fans of Iron Blasters. Oh, I'm trying to say they've always been a fan of Iron Blasters. Let me tell you something about the Ogre community. They really were always a fan of Iron Blasters. They just wanted to play them. It's not a meme this time. They probably own them already. It's fine.
Agreed. Okay, Boulderhead. Add 2 to the wounds characteristic of your stone horns and thunder tusks. Not 1, but 2. They also got a wound bump on scroll in some cases. So
yeah, Frosters are on 17 wounds in this subfaction.
Yeah,
that's a lot on a 3-up, 5-up, possibly -1 to get wounded.
Yes,
a lot.
Yep. And then you can also pick 3 of your stone horns or thunder tusks to have mount traits instead of 1. So if you like all monster trucks, this is your home. Congratulations, you found it.
Mm-hmm.
Thunderbellies is all of your Mournfang can run and still charge. I think Mournfang are like good now. That's my pre-read on them. I don't think they're great. I think there are better units, but they're good. They're functional. Like I think they can have a place in the army. And giving all of them run and charge is actually, I think, really, really, really good. Because they're not quite fast enough on scroll, but when they can all add a d6 to their movement, they become the right speed, like pretty instantaneously. So cool.
Yeah, this is a good touch up, a little tune up from the last one where you could run and charge as long as you started that charge within 6 of a board edge. Yep. Can't believe no one took that. But
shocking.
We fixed it.
Weird.
And you're not missing out on too much.
Right.
Yeah, you can run and charge. You have to give up your shoot, right? Because you're running, but it's a single shot. It's on 4s. There's no opportunity cost. It's fine.
Exactly. I kind of wish they had just killed out their ranged thing. I mean, I know they come with the pistols and stuff. I kind of wish they had just gotten rid of that as a thing and made them a little bit more offensive. But it's fine. Like it doesn't really matter. It's just an extra profile for people to forget. So it's cool. Okay. And then finally, Winter Bite. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons. The target-friendly Winter Bite units wholly within your territory. In addition, your Frost Sabers, Icebrow Hunter, and Yetis are not visible to enemy models more than 12 inches away. Not visible. Not just can't be targeted by range attacks, but simply not visible.
Yeah.
So the weakest one, but that's actually mostly because of the underlying substructure of this relies on Hunters, Yetis, and Frost Sabers, which are all kind of like whatever. But it's still not bad.
I could see people playing this in their local, where everybody at the local store plays shooting armies, and it's made them go a little crazy, and they're just like, I have had enough. I'm taking all my. I'm not playing any Frost Sabers or Yetis. I'm just playing Gutbusters. But by gum, I'm taking Winter Bite, and I'll be a -1 to hit and -1 to wounded shooting. And I'm taking Mournfang, and that's for them, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. It's the weakest of the 6, I think, like in interest-wise, but still, in my mind, 5 out of 6 of these nailed it. They open up interesting play options. They're fun. They do what you think they should do. They're great, and not all of them, by the way, dictate like all your unit choices. They don't build your whole army for you. I mean, some are more heavy than others. Yeah. I didn't list anywhere here, by the way, what battle line these opened up, because weirdly, none of them do.
Yeah, it's still the old has to be the general thing, which is very annoying in list building, I gotta say.
Yeah, it's so weird that we've seen the different cross ways to become battle line in most of the recent tomes, and these guys just stuck with like the 2.0 way to add battle line, just purely through general. So
Right.
I don't know. Here we are. Okay. Matched play, grand strategies, and battle tactics. The thing I like talking about the least out of this whole stupid. This is my least favorite part of 3.0 tomes. Okay.
Gotta say, same.
Hey, whoa, you talked about all of these, so here's what we're gonna do.
Sure.
Are any of these worth it? I'm throwing to you on this.
Grand strategies?
Start with the
No.
grand strategies, then we'll do battle tactics.
Are any of these worth taking over the default ones? No. Maybe Saga the Monster Hunter. If you think your Frostwood is going to live for the whole game, your opponent is probably going to be playing in such a way so that he eventually he's very durable. He will eventually die. If your opponent has no monster, you just straight lose these points. They disappear into thin air. The other ones are really extremely hard or bizarre to play against and have actually work. Enough Grub for All requires the Maw Pot to refill, and they didn't change the Maw Pot at all, so it's still
Right.
100%.
It's still your opponent can just
in the
decide not
opponent's
to ever fight
control.
near the Maw Pot.
Yeah. And I tend to play against opponents who are like, yeah, I guess I'm just not going to take any casualties within 6 of that thing, because then it would refill. And so it just doesn't. And it's I like grand strategy and battle tactics where it's like the things you're doing are responsible for whether or not it succeeds, not like, well, if your opponent plays around this, it doesn't work. Oh, okay. So yeah, grand strategies, never good, very hard to do. Take a default one. For battle tactics, they're on theme. The theme is on point. Every one of these is like you are all in. You're pushing the chips to the center of the table, and they want you to do that, according to these. And they're split between the different ways you could be playing ogres. It's not just like all these are free. Anything you're doing, you just kind of get these. They're like, okay, this is the one where if you're playing a bunch of monsters, and this is the one if you're playing, yetis and stuff like that. So this is the one if you're playing in Meat Fist, probably for Avalanche of Flesh. One of them requires that every single ogre keyword in your whole army is in combat. And notice that it triggers at the start of the combat phase, not at the end of the turn like they usually do. So it's possible, but that's hard. Almost impossible early on unless the game is going in a very weird direction. But it becomes more doable as the game goes on because you're a very elite army. If you're in Guts, your durability is not particularly great. It's just your damage was literally doubled, which is fun. But so eventually you're just going to not have many guys left. And so at some point, they're just all going to be in combat because you only have 5 left. So you'll get that one. And then Savor the Taste. Everybody has to, at the end of the turn, not be in combat. They have to be hungry. So it's a callback to those allegiance abilities, which is what I like to see. And you'll eventually get this one too. You can't do it in the first battle round, obviously, because then it wouldn't just be figuratively auto. It would be literally auto, right? But this one also works if you plan on entering combat. Okay, maybe I'm just going to enter one combat this turn, but I really plan on killing that thing. And then if you do, hey, you get that. So we have 2 that are pretty doable. One that's pretty durable if you're playing a bunch of monsters or in Meat Fist, which is the 10 mortal wounds.
Yeah, the 10 mortal wounds on trampling charge.
And the other ones are like, I mean, I'm reminded of the Fire Slayers thing where one of them is to kill somebody with a stupid throwing axe,
Yes.
The Everwinter one.
Yes.
You complete the battle tactic if you destroyed an enemy hero or monster with wounds caused by Grasp of the Everwinter battle trait, which is the thing that generally at best has a 50-50 chance of working and then does a D3 mortal wounds. I mean, this is the planets are aligning on a Tuesday if your opponent's name is Jim kind of stuff. No thanks. Yeesh. And let them loose is pretty easy if you're playing a bunch of monsters, obviously. But you do have to, get them all in there, which is what you want to do anyway, so no big deal. And then roll their bones. This is weird because the battle tactic is the same as the grand strategy. Both of them are just refill the Maw Pot.
Right.
And this is so hard to do that they're both not something that you are really ever going to choose to do. Roll the Bones is better because you could be looking at a situation where that's just going to happen, and then you choose it. So Roll the Bones isn't that bad because eventually you'll get in a situation where that's going to happen. So then you'll choose that one. No love lost there. The Grand Strat, definitely not. So do we have the ones that everybody complains about are automatic? For sure, no. Are they good choices when they come up, and a few of them are going to happen generally? Yeah. So all right. I don't like this part of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope they're gone in 4th edition.
We all do, or at least relegated to a particular battle pack or something like that, which is correct. But shout out to Lord Vlad, who said the mall pot filling one should be done in a 2-on-2 battle with an SOB2 mate who can suplex something to within 6 inches of it, and then you all kill it. Like if he body slams it behind. Yes, there it is. That's how you do it.
Now you're thinking with portals.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Let's talk Warscrolls. We're not going to talk Kragnos because I never taught Kragnos in these books. They reprint him in every one. He's Kragnos. He's still Kragnos. If you liked Kragnos before, you'll like him now. But he's Kragnos. Okay.
What if you didn't like Kragnos before, but you're suspiciously changing your mind right now?
Also fine.
Is that okay?
That's also fine.
All right.
But he's still Kragnos. We've reviewed the Warscroll before.
Asking for a friend.
Sure. All right. The Tyrant. First of all, why is this foot hero? Yes. Why is this foot hero an entire page? This is so much text for a foot hero when so much of this text doesn't need to be here. Okay. You pick a big name. We talked about it originally. I'm not going to read through all the big names because so many of them are just dumb and like you're never going to take them. It's just there's such obvious winners here. So
yeah. This could have been one of those they cut things in half and give you 3 options sort of things that I wouldn't complain about. Mm-hmm. As long as they kept the 3 good ones.
Sure. Yeah, of course. Which of course they're but what they would do is keep Longstrider, Giant Breaker, and Wall Crusher. That's what would happen.
No, they would keep Death Cheater and then the 2 worst ones is what they would keep.
Good point. Okay. Look, if you're just taking one, chances are you're going to take Death Cheater because the Ward of 5-up is probably worth more than the save characteristic of 3-up.
Yep.
If you take the command trait to get the second one, then your obvious choice is to take both Fate Seeker and Death Cheater. And now this little lunatic, this little 150-point lunatic hero is on a 3-up, 5-up, which is like really
with 8
tough.
Wounds and can still get Lookout Sir.
Right. Yeah, he's still capable of getting Lookout Sir. It's really strong. What I hate about this guy is that I hate the way that the Beast Skewer Glaive and the Thunder Mace still have completely goofy triggered rules that are like very non-intuitive, different, and very hard to remember. I made the same exact complaint with the Light of Eltharion.
Yes.
Sure. But they're all in the same numbers at least, not rend and damage. But the hit and wound, that helps, right?
No.
Right?
No, it doesn't. They have different numbers of attacks, different rend, different damage, and different triggers. Okay? Because the glaive is if the unmodified hit roll is a 6 against a hero or monster, then your
damage matter.
Shoots up.
All of it is 6s at least. You know if you hit on a 6, it's special.
Something special happened. Now I gotta go look at this ridiculous page of text to find it.
Right,
when it could have just been like, here we go. Here's another rule. You ready? You ready for this, Tom? Tyrant's Crushing Blows. Okay? Any melee attack, any unmodified melee attack, I don't care, of 6 to hit causes 1 mortal wound in addition to other just normal damage. Ta-da!
Weird.
Why would that have been hard?
Well, and the best part about it is things like the Beast Skewer Glaive that goes to like D6 damage instead of D3. Like, I think I'd rather just have 1 mortal.
Sure.
Yeah. Actually, yes. I would rather have that. At least
Can
they
I just have
the same
1
range
mortal?
now. They used to have 2 different ranges as well in combat, which was even more annoying.
Yeah,
so they got that. Good shout out to Stuart Gutsford of the chat for pointing that one out. Yeah, they do have the same range now, at least.
The other fun one that will factor, by the way, of the names, So now that we've got the complaint out of the way, the Bully of the First Degree isn't a command ability anymore. It's just a thing now that happens where if he's within 3 inches of other Ogre Mawtribes unit, he can make it so only one dude flees. So
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
fine.
It was kind of whatever before. It's kind of whatever now.
Right.
Fine.
He's fine.
This guy, he doesn't actually do that great of damage, actually.
Yeah.
Because he's a melee foot assassin, which is just a bad job to have in AOS generally.
Yeah.
Almost systematically.
It is the second worst thing you can be in the game. Yes.
At least he's not on 10 wounds.
He's not on 10 wounds, true. So you can put him in battalions. And in Gutbusters, you get to play with battalions, which is nice.
He can be body, or he can be
he's dual wielding.
Yep. He can lookout sir.
Yeah, he can get lookout sir.
Yep.
Because he's dual wielding, like taking one of his combat artifacts is actually not the coolest. He doesn't have a job really. Well, okay, he does have a job. His job is the white knuckle grip, holding on to that trophy rack and not letting go. That's his job. It's that cartoon meme where the robot is like, "What is my purpose?" Your purpose is to hold the trophy rack, nothing else.
Which, it's nice that his Beast Skewer Glaive, can be effective against those heroes and monsters from the trophy rack, right? Because those are only +1 to hit, so it already incentivizes him to go out and hunt heroes and monsters. But
yeah, and trophy rack is an important artifact in what you're doing with iron blasters and stuff, and you don't want him to get shot in the brain. So a 3-up, 5-up holding onto that artifact is quite a bit more safe than being greedy and just playing a butcher and hoping nobody even looks at him the wrong way with that 5-up, So sure, that's his job. If you want a trophy rack in your army and you want it to be a very durable trophy rack, you play a tyrant. If you don't, you don't, because he's not really for anything else.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe make an argument that his other role, if you build him with a 3-up, 5-up, is as a pinning unit, because he is durable enough to go pin units and just hold them. Yeah. Most units, if he's fighting on the corner, he is just a single dude on a 50, 60, something like that. Right. I don't remember.
Yeah, he could just pin a unit of 5 cavalry just right on the corner and probably just stand there, not dying to them.
Right.
Until they retreat, until they choose to get away from him. So
yeah, so if you don't want him to be the sort of trophy rack holder, I think he can still have a purpose, because he can sort of just get into fights with much larger units and oftentimes just stand there and hold them so they don't get to charge what they want. Pinning units are a thing. I like cheap pinning heroes, and at 150 in this army, that's actually he's a little bit more expensive than I like my pinners to be, but he's not crazy more.
He's move 8. That's highly decent. He can get there. Yeah.
Yep.
Also, you can meme with him. If you're in Meat Fist on Brawler Guts, so that his impact hits are on a 3-up, and maybe put a Kragnos perhaps in the army for that 3d6, and you can meme with him if you'd like. So that's a phantom third option.
He is very memeable, and I love that he's the guy who can get the 3-up mortal wounds on the charge. So yes, he's Kragnos' little buddy. Buddy.
The buddy cop film is coming back. I guess that reference is going to happen more than once.
Okay. All right, let's keep moving. The Slaughtermaster, 7 wounds, 5-up, blah blah blah. Still has his goofy attacks with his little stump blade hands. Still has
only one spell.
He's still a single caster, yeah. But I mean, again, he can be a double caster in Blood Gullet. Still in the running for the worst model in AOS.
He's up there. He's up there with Aelgo's Lairs.
He's real bad. This model is so bad. I don't know what happened to this guy. It looks like they made a mold and then it kind of melted and then they went, let's just keep making him.
Exactly. I was just about to say, it looks like they made a bad skull. They made a bad looking guy out of Finecast and then put him in the microwave for exactly 25 seconds.
Yes, I think that's exactly correct. He still has his slot machine from the stuff he carries behind him.
Boo. Yes. Let us choose.
It's look. This is destruction. It's slot machine time. Okay, obviously, and you're still rolling for the 3/4. That's what you want.
And
it's
the
comical
roll,
to be.
The highest roll is still bad.
Yes, that they make the 5/6 the
sad.
bad one still.
You're sad to roll high. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just move Spine Marrow to the 5/6 so you feel good when you roll high on the dice. Like, just do it. What are we doing here? If I was in the development team, I would have said, okay, can we change this? And they would have been like, no. And I would have said, all right, well, at least switch Spine Marrow and Bone Crusher so people feel good about rolling a 5 or 6.
And then they're like, what do you mean? It's the best one. And then you need to have a conversation.
Right.
Yes. About force multipliers again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then he still does his little potential heal or hurt himself when he casts spells. And,
weird, but okay. It does nothing, but okay.
And he has Rock Chomper, which is a spell that is not very good. So no. You cast a gut magic lore spell. Those are good. This is not good.
Some people may choose a Slaughtermaster because they're just going to roll that 33%, that 1 in 3 for the +1 to wound. And then maybe sometimes a heal with the Dragoth Guts. So you have like you get a 4-up chance to get some sort of useful buff, and then a 50% chance of getting nothing. And he can cast the lores. The lores are good. So it's possible someone still playing this guy as their second wizard, something like that. He's not terrible. He's just annoying.
Like, as a utility wizard for 135, he's not like, that's not a terrible price point for this guy. I will point out. I mean, like,
a 7-wound wizard.
This is a dude that started at like 165 or 170 or something, like in the olden days. So this is a better cost for sure.
Yes. Oh, come on, Marcus. He's definitely Ale Guzzler tier. He definitely is. Have you seen this model close up?
Look at it in person.
Now, I'm not saying he's worse than the Ale Guzzler. That's not the. I'm saying he's in the tier.
Mm-hmm. He's in the conversation.
Yes. Okay. The Butcher, also 135. Also a bad model, but not as bad. So hey, we got that going for us. Still a single cast wizard. Still has the Maw, which is a funny, fun, like the classic destruction sort of spell.
This is the type of destruction randomness that is fun. It's not that I don't like randomness. I just like fun randomness. Random movement characteristic, not fun.
Right.
Roll on a table and some random thing happens, not fun. Spell that does damage, and you play roulette for a little while, and ooh, wow, what if I roll a 6 every time? There we go. We hit it.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, you're taking this dude because you want to cast the lore spells. That's why.
And on the off chance of the Hail Mary and NFL Blitz, you might cast Ferocious Maw once or twice a game and be like, well, hey, if I roll hot, this thing's dead. That'd be sweet.
And once in a while, that will happen, and it will be memorable. You'll be like, I took this monster from 15 wounds to dead because I couldn't stop rolling a 4-up. And it's going to be great.
I can't stop succeeding,
Our new hero, the Blood Pelt Hunter.
Not speaking of can't stop succeeding, here we have Blood Pelt Hunter. Go on.
Yes, indeed. At 140 points for this new boy. 8 wounds, 5-up save, 8 bravery. I really thought they talked this guy up in the article. They were like, "Oh, this dude's going to be like a real sweet monster hunter."
No,
right? And I was like,
I knew it.
Okay,
there was no way. I knew they couldn't do it. I'm like, I guarantee you that this guy will not be good at killing monsters. Guaranteed. I knew it.
So he's a ranged dude. He wants to be ranged. Now, let's talk about him. He's not visible to enemy units while he's in cover. Cool ability.
Okay.
Cool, actually.
Yeah, good ability. Like, again, he's a big 8-wound hero, but he can still easily get into cover. He's on a small base. Like, again, he's not on a very big base.
He's on that
pretty easy for this dude to walk into cover somewhere. Neat. At the end of your opponent's movement phase, if this unit is more than 9 inches from all enemy units, it can make a normal move. Okay.
Good ability. Cool.
Good ability. Not great, because if they get close, they can turn it off, because he has to be farther away. But he can kind of stalk around outside. Yeah. It's a neat ability.
Like, they have to commit to him, right?
Yeah. Because if they don't get within 9, he's just going to leave. He's just going to like walk away 8 inches.
And he has a movement of 8 if he's not within 9.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
He has a movement of 8 if he's not within 3. Yeah. So I mean, he's like a hunter in World of Warcraft. He's just kiting you. He's always 16, 18 away, just shooting, which is, feels like it would be an interesting mechanic. It's like they designed this guy for like a 600-point game, in a sense.
Sure.
He would be like really useful and interesting in that size game, but when it gets to 2K, I'm just taking an Iron Blaster, probably.
Right.
And they're like, nah, dog.
This guy, by the way, that was my strategy of how my Shadow Warrior worked in war. Just literally run around in circles and shoot behind me for hours. I used to like solo world bosses just by, if all I had to find was a world boss that didn't, all the world bosses that didn't have ranged attacks. I could, because I was just slightly as fast or slightly faster or as fast.
Well, you
as
had
them.
a snaring arrow that you'd rotate
to slow him down, and so I would just sit there for like 3-4 hours and kill what's supposed to be a raid boss. Okay. So, let's talk about these ranged attacks, man. This is what this guy's lived. This is his life, right? He's the super cool hunter.
He's done it before. He has the trophies. Somehow
They're right on his belt. They wouldn't lie through the model. 18-inch range out of his crossbow, so 6 inches longer than the normal hunter's crossbow. Upgrade. 2 attacks on 4s and 3s, neg 1, d3 damage. And then a spear attack at 12 inches, 1 attack, 4s and 2s, neg 2, d6 damage. If you're targeting a monster, the damage characteristic of the crossbow goes to 3, and the impaling spear goes to 6. Now, I will state there's a command trait we didn't talk about earlier, or whatever. Right. I think it's a command trait, yeah. That you can take for this guy. It is a command trait, right? Not an artifact. It doesn't matter. There's a thing you can take for this guy.
Yeah.
That puts him on 2s to hit.
It is a trait, yeah.
Excellent. So you've got to make this idiot your general. Awesome. Lovely. Okay. So, but it puts him on 2s to hit. So now he's 2s and 3s, neg 1. Like, let's construe the best case scenario, right? This guy is targeting a monster. So he is your general. He's got out there. He's doing his hunting. He has to be within 12 inches because he wants his full attacks, right? Yep. He's in the perfect pocket between 12 and 9 where he could still, like, potentially move away or whatever. He makes all his attacks. 2s and 3s, neg 1, d3 on 2 attacks. 2s and 2s, neg 2, d6, or 6 damage. And 3 damage for the first one. Now, let's just say against the average monster, those all hit and all wound, and they fail all saves, and the monster doesn't have a ward. Okay? Like, we're just running this to the max.
It's the best universe, yeah.
Right? He has not killed most monsters of value. Because most monsters of value are 14 wounds now. And he has done 12 damage.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because he needed to charge and do impact mortals. Like, that's what he has to finish them off.
Then he's got to go in and charge, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's got to field dress them. Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah, he has to field dress them.
That's the last thing.
So yeah, that's terrible. So can I acknowledge, though, that, like, so I've been thinking about this 9-inch move thing. So you can reliably keep folks out probably, 6 inches from you? Oftentimes just with an 8 movement. Like, unless they're a super high movement, right? Like, you can set up in spaces to be like 6, 4 to 6. Like, it's hard for people to get up on you that quickly unless they're like cav or units like that, right?
Sure.
Like, most people aren't going to be up against you if you're positioning accordingly, right? Well, realistically, this check comes after redeploy. So there may be very real universes where this guy redeploys. Like, let's say you move to get this guy within 9. Okay, let's say that you get him at that, at like 7 inches. If he redeploys, anything like, if he at 2 or more, I guess he has to hit 3 at that point.
Yeah.
Then he's going to move an additional 8 then at the end of the phase.
Sure.
So, like, he may actually be really hard to catch with a redeploy. Like, so a smart player playing him well, he's going to be really hard to pin down. Now, it's not going to matter because he's not going to do anything.
Right.
But he's going to be real hard to actually catch.
Yeah, the only interesting thing about him to me, and this was said by who said this in the comment? James. He's a count as 5 that can move onto an objective on your opponent's turn. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
That's actually the play with him. I also thought that there could be an interesting meme play where like your two main heroes are like Frost Lord and something else, okay? And then you just have like 4 of these idiots. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just squiggling all over the place.
Yeah, and just like they're all just very hard to pin down and all shooting at them at like monsters and stuff like that. And when you mass that many of them all shooting, now given most of these guys would be on 4s, right?
Yeah.
Which is going to be which is the unfortunate part about it. Okay.
Right.
But
you
if
might
like
actually get efficacy because like
let's say your play here. Let me construe this. I haven't done points on this army, but I'm going to construe the army. Ready? It's Frostheart and Stonehorn because it's always that first, and a Tyrant. Okay, the Tyrant's got the trophy rack.
Yes, he does. That's what I was just looking at.
And then there are 4 of these floating in his 12-inch cloud.
Yeah.
Okay, and so now they're on like 3s and 2s.
The trophy rack is melee.
No. It's
oh,
not.
is it only melee?
No.
Oh, it's not. Has it been
just
updated?
looked.
I
Plus
thought
one
it was
hit,
shooting also.
hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Gutbuster units wholly within.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Of the
Why did I even
Yeah,
think it was
shit.
melee? Because they used that in Iron Blaster. Iron Blast list.
And this guy is a Gutbuster hero.
I'm actually going insane. I knew this. All right.
Yeah.
You're
Carry
okay.
on.
So I think that like 4 of them running around pulling these shenanigans benefit like kind of floating around that bubble.
Do you need 4 or would 3 be would be 3?
I just picked 4 out of the top of my head. Like assumingly there's Iron Blasters behind them also doing work because basically you're going for the shooting ogre army. Right?
Right.
Like that's what's happened here. You've dedicated these hero slots.
You're playing Hero Hammer here.
Yeah, you have like pseudo shooting artillery units as your heroes, most of your hero slots, right?
Right.
And then you've got then the Tyrant's kind of in the middle, and behind him are the Iron Blasters, and that's like that 12-inch, that 24-inch diameter bubble is your like kill zone, right?
I think
where you're just shooting.
Your Iron Blasters probably just are plenty of range damage at that point, and blood pelts are overkill, and just extra stuff in that list filling it up.
Maybe.
But
like,
what about 4 blood pelt hunters instead? Like your anti Iron Blaster. You're just no, I won't do it. 4 blood pelt hunters instead. One of the hunters is just carrying the trophy, and they all stand next to each other. And now you have like super mobile Iron Blasters that are way worse, but kind of cheaper.
I still think it's a terrible idea, but it's a fun meme.
It's a fun meme, yeah. I might actually play that list. I'll see what it is because I have a bunch of hunters. Like I made a bunch of hunters because I thought just hunters are fun.
Well, our army already has a bunch of hunters that no one.
Yeah, exactly. Between like the Warcry stuff and all that, like I just have a bunch of hunters because they're fun models. And so like I'll just proxy out 4 blood pelt hunters. I'll run them all as blood pelts and just like see what happens, just see if it's wacky. But I think it's more memey. But hey, there you go. All right, let's get into the meat of this, as it were.
Woe be to the monster that shows up on that battlefield.
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, I'm getting me an Archeon.
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, he's still got like a ridiculous saving throw, or save. So he's just like, yeah, okay, cool. I'm sorry. How much your damage is on Rend 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but spears. Each spear that gets through on -2 Rend is 6 damage.
That's great. He has an all the time ward save now. Yeah, like gluttons. We're back, baby. We saw this scroll already, but boy, oh boy, we're in. The core meat of the army is for real now. This is such a good page. I love this page.
Yeah.
This is my favorite page in the book. I've always been like, my ogre army is mostly gut stuff. It's mostly gut busters. I just think ogres are cool. Like the just foot ogre dudes I think look cool. Obviously, the most
free to paint on, that's fun.
Yeah, like, and the most common painting guy I use is Larry the Ogre. Obviously, as my little shown up in 50 tutorials. I just think ogres are fun. So, at any rate, gluttons are now 6 for 265. They are battle line base. If you go for the the club and Iron Fist, you get 3 attacks. If you go for the paired clubs, you get 4 attacks. The champion has the bonus attack. Your 1 in every 6 models is one of those 2 things. And obviously, you're going to pick the one that makes ranged attacks into you be -1 to hit, or sorry, -1 to wound, which is like crazy good for defensive if they've got a little lookout noblar.
Yep.
The bravery's fine, but again, it's not generally as necessary between inspiring presence and the tyrant and other things you could do.
You're also just bravery 8 if you're in combat because of eating.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you get 1 to charge rolls off of your musician, which is the exact bonus you always want. Like I go to the musician, I read, and I'm like, does it say +1 to charge? If so, I'm in. That's like, that is one of the best rules you can have in a command unit, bar none.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like there's no other special crap going on. They're just trucks that charge in, and now in their unit of 6 base, they will come in and make 24 attacks on, I'm going to do this completely unbuffed.
There's a unit champ now, 25.
25, yeah, sorry. 25 attacks on 3s and 3s. -1, 2 damage. And the best part is they don't even need the I'm Your Battle Brothers thing, Galatian Veterans rule, because they are now a 2-inch reach.
Yes. Yes.
So, like,
It's
we did it.
good.
I don't know. Like, unfurl the banner. Mission accomplished. We got there.
Yeah.
These guys are good.
It's great. People had 2 complaints. Well, okay, they had a bunch of complaints about gluttons before, but the first complaint was, man, these are expensive for how bad their save is, and they just die. I'm sad. And also, they don't do any damage. And they fixed the latter, but they fixed it way more than they usually change Warscrolls from one book to another.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was expecting 2-inch range or rend 1, or they used to have the 6 extra attack thing, but they're just like, nope, 2-inch range, double the number of attacks they're doing, +1 attack per model, and including rend 1. Like they really wanted these guys to be doing the damage, and I approve. Good work.
Yeah, some people are asking, like, would you ever take the Iron Fist?
No.
My honest answer is no. I just think the extra attack's worth way more.
Yeah.
Than the partial mortal wounds, like the few mortal wounds you get off the
The
save.
squad is getting 6 bonus attacks from that. That's considerable.
Yeah.
Yep. But if you modeled them with Iron Fists, cool. That's paired ogre clubs or blunt blades, because what is a blunt blade? It's fine. That thing on their hand is that thing. Mm-hmm. Who cares?
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously these guys receive other buffs like the +1 attack buff and stuff like that.
Very well.
And there's still 2 different sources of +1 attack that these guys can receive. I mean, if this unit gets up to like 6 attacks each, I'm just like, what is happening here? I complained about the comparison to Gluttons in the Sons of Bahamut show, because the War Stomper Gargant he has effectively a Glutton's profile. Like, that is to say, he's 3s and 3s. Now he's -2 rend, but he's 2 damage. So it's, -2 rend is way better than -1. I'm not going to joke, but it's very similar profile. But he caps at 10 attacks, and he's twice as much as this unit. And this unit, just base without buffs, walks in with 25. Just like, hey, what's up, guys? We're here.
If you hit them first, they're dead. If they hit you, you're dead. Rochambeau Champions 2022, the entire Gutbuster half of the book.
Yep. Iron Guts, I love these guys too. They're 270 for 4. If you have a Gutbuster general, they become battle line. So like Tyrant or Butcher or whatever. So again, you get a champ, you get a standard bearer, which gives you a silly spell ignore that whatever, it's fine. It's fine.
Nope.
But you get a musician that gives you +1 to charge, which is what we're all actually here for, which is again what's important. Iron Guts are 3 attack space, 3s, -2 rend, 3 damage. They can bodyguard tyrants. Which is fine. Like, okay, neat. They can bodyguard tyrants.
But okay. Yeah. It's totally lore appropriate. They needed something like that because that's what they are in the stories. I just hope it wasn't worth any item budget because you're not going to be doing that.
Yep.
And down to the Iron Guts used to do nothing, and now it does something.
Yes.
And so you might be like, oh man, a second pile in, but I strike last, and now the opponent gets to hit me. That's a downside. It is a downside. But it used to do nothing, and now it does something.
Yeah, I'm all about the fight again, but you strike last. It's still super potent.
Yeah, sometimes that's really going to matter.
Yeah.
Well, especially on a charge with 2-inch reach, guys. Because you could very easily go into a unit, like, blow it up, right? Call down to the Iron Guts. If there's and like, that unit's exploded, there's nothing else actually within 3 of them, like, if you position them well.
Yeah.
But there might be something within 4 or 5, and so then on the full pile-in, they can go in there and just chop into a second unit and strike last. And basically get to fight twice. Like, if you properly set yourself up for when you use that, it is an extremely potent ability.
Yeah. And for anyone wondering some of the math on it, if you compare Ogre Gluttons to Iron Guts, look at the cost. It's very similar, within 5 points of each other. Their overall durability is about the same, number of effective wounds, and their damage against most armor types is basically the same. Even when you start applying buffs onto it, they're pretty close to the same unit, except Ogre Gluttons are more bodies, standing places, and they have the -1 to get shot wounded when shooting, and the Iron Guts have the double pile-in. So it's sort of like, it's a dealer's choice. Do you like piling in twice? Do you like more guys? And they both slap about as hard as each other, and they both take about as many hits as each other before they die.
Yep.
Good.
Absolutely. Greenblood Crusade said, question, is there any chance of true dwarves again? Beards and cannons, I mean. I assume you mean, like, foot dwarves, because the like, Caradhran Overlords certainly have beards, and they do have lots of cannons on their ships, but I assume you mean more classic, like, Warhammer Fantasy dwarves. I mean, they're all still around. They're part of Cities of Sigmar, and I don't think they'll go away. Like, I think the dwarves will remain part of that army. I don't know if they'll get new sculpts, so they'll just rely on the existing ones. But I think they'll stay part of the integrated cities. It's in the lore, it's in the world, they're there. So, like, your Longbeards and Ironbreakers and all that kind of stuff, I mean, I think that'll just be part of the world. And so because they're in cities, like, my guess is there will be new cannons. There's literally a whole city dedicated to gunpowder weapons, so I have to imagine that's going to stick around and be something. So
the coolest city, by the way.
It is the coolest city.
Definitely not by the rules, but by, like, the art and the lore. I'm in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Man-eaters.
Man. These guys eat, well, I don't know how late this show is on, but you get the idea.
Yes. They're elite. They're 4 wounds with a 5-up save. They're 170 points for 3. The math does not work out. They do not have the Gutbuster keyword. So they miss out on some potential buffs. Their been there, done that is not worth it. Even if you take run and charge, it's still not worth it. And the eye count says slightly more models when contesting objectives is also not worth it. So yeah, they're bad.
Yeah, you have 6 Gluttons for 265, and you have 6 Man-Eaters for 340, and they do the same damage. So you are paying a lot of extra points for run and charge, and you're losing a lot as well. You're losing Meat Fist bonus if you wanted that. You're losing battle line, or you're losing a trait. Nope. No thanks.
Yep, it's a hard pass. It's a shame. I love Man-Eaters. Like I said, I'm glad for the weirdos that can run them as a whole army now, but yeah, they're not good. They're not good. Gorgers, which are ogres, so are hungry or eating, that kind of thing. They're 80 points. It's like, you take this if you want pop-up ambush chaff. That's why you took this.
They're the new king, all right? I don't like the sculpt, I don't like fine cast, but I gotta say, friendship ended with Hrothgorn, some guy man-trapper. Friendship accepted with Gorgers. If you want 2 or 4 victory points, it only costs you 160 points now. And that's what they're for. The only downside is if you're doing that, and you're trying to do that one battle tactic, and you drop 2 Gorgers in actual no man's land, they're probably never going to enter combat for a long time, so that might hurt your battle tactic thing. But if you're trying to acquire victory points for cheap, if you think that's cheap, 160, that's the play now, because Hrothgorn went up.
Yep.
And
yeah,
Cats
I mean,
went up.
their Gruesome Devourer's ability is like interesting, where they shut off
Yeah.
Inspiring Presence and Rally. It's everybody's favorite
Yeah,
new
but they
thing
have
to
to
do.
not die. So that's the problem. They have to be in combat and die. So
Sure.
It's a big
but
range though, and you could like put them in and something else that your opponent really wants to.
Well,
like,
and it doesn't have to be the same
instead.
fight.
Yeah.
Like you could put them into junk. You could put them into to chaff, because that bubble stretches out, and they just have to touch any other unit within 9.
Sure.
With that bubble, so
Yeah.
like
You can maybe possibly do some tricky thing with them, but that's like I'm already
they're tech
trying to play them
pieces.
because of the one thing, and now I'm just trying to find something that they can do, and that's maybe something that they can do.
Yeah, I mean,
so
to me,
ability.
I think the 2 of these are worth it because the 2 battle tactics they insta complete. Just desecrate their lands and barge through enemy lines. Like in the current season, that's why you take those. If those 2 battle tactics stick around, it's like worth 160 points to just instantly complete those in your army. The other thing is like a bonus. Sure, if you can organize, but I mean, there's 6 wounds on a 6 of save. They will just evaporate if anything of any kind of value swings at them, right? Yeah. So, I mean, we'll compare them to a very similar unit next week in S2D that I think does the Inspiring Presence or Rally Command shut off better. That's the challenge. I think you're taking them for the battle tactics, not for the
If Tyrant had that ability, now we're opening up some reasons to play Tyrant besides holding on to a thing. But these guys are probably too fragile for that.
Yep.
Don't care. They're good. They're good at what they're supposed to do. Well, maybe not what they're supposed to do, but what they're good at.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't do any damage, so cool. It's just like they're there literally to be annoying chaff pieces and
they got like a Crypt Honker attack profile over there. So.
Right. Lead Belchers, 170 for 4 of these guys. Again, still 4 wounds, 5 up save. They have their gun. D3 attacks. Why is it still D3? Can we please just make it 2? Like, just make it 2. Just do that. Stop making random attacks. Please stop it. Just 2.
Agree.
Just write the number 2. What are we doing with this? How is this adding any value to the game? Stop it. Okay. It just drives me insane. At any rate, D3 attacks each, 4s, 3s, neg 1/1. Obviously, relevant part here is, again, these go battle line as Gutbuster Generals. They are another interesting part if you're trying to do like MSU sort of meat fist. They can be a potential part of that where you're just charging all over the place, and these can be shooting. The real use is obviously within Underguts, where suddenly they're neg 2 rend, and they're your obvious battle line choice for more shooting to support your Iron Blasters and be chaff for your Iron Blasters out front. So, you know, even though they're 4s and 3s, like, turns out neg 2 rend shooting, pretty good. Even when it's 1 damage, as those stupid little dwarves in Cities of Sigmar have proven for many years now, as they just, 420 blaze it all day. So, yeah. And the important part is, if they didn't move, then when they shoot, their gun becomes 2d3 shots instead of d3. I hate that as a trade-off, because AOS is about movement. It's the worst thing you can put on a war scroll. Yeah. Did you want to not play this game to get your good rules? Cool, have it. But
only works on your turn now. It used to work on all turns, so you won't get that with Unleash Hell. It's something the first time you play you might not notice, but they're not that great even in Underguts. But they do chip damage at 18, and they're the cheapest battle line. So you're very happy to take them anyway, I think.
Yep. Agreed. And they can still be units that charge, or a unit that charges in and does more wounds on a 5, which is fine.
Finish stuff off, whatever it may be.
And I don't think you can understate they're like the cheapest battle line compared to like points to bodies,
5 or something, or 270 each. The battle line is very expensive normally in this army.
Yep. Mm-hmm. The Iron Blaster, also known as the reason why you're not taking the Bloodpelt Hunter. There
are more reasons than that, but this is another one.
Sure. Another one. This is, strike up DJ Khaled over here. 9 wounds, 4 up save. Has the Rhinox keyword, has the Gutbusters keyword, has the Ogre keyword, has all the keywords.
This is artillery that moves 9. because
Yep.
it's hungry.
Yep.
That's a big threat range. 39-inch.
Uh-huh. And it now makes, it's got a little split shot. I think this was the unit, by the way, in Warhammer Fantasy that introduced the split shot.
Oh, it's a
Interesting
callback. Okay,
piece of
cool.
history. I believe this was, somebody can check me on this, but my memory says this was the first unit that they introduced the grape shot concept on. They eventually rolled that out to all the cannons, but this was, I think, the first one. Anyways. Yeah, so they can do the cannonball or the grape shot. They call it hail shot, but whatever, it doesn't matter. 30-inch range, 2 attacks, 4s, 2s, -2, D3 +3. I am as excited about this as I as the rend and the reach on Gluttons.
No more D6 damage, rejoice, for thou hath been saved.
Yeah.
Yo.
It's great. Like, thank you. We got there. We did it,
That means the worst you can roll is 4 for damage, and if the damage characteristic was just 4, I would be very pleased with the Iron Blaster. But so the worst outcome, that could just be the damage, and I'd be happy with this. Great work.
Yeah, we did it. And then if you're within short range, which you very easily or might want to be, because again, this thing moves actually quite decently fast and is tough enough you might want to be in combat.
If you start your turn 21 away from your opponent, you can do that.
Right.
Yep.
And again, we talked earlier about how there's a spell to turn this thing into a monster for purposes of capping and charging and monsters rampaging. So all of that's good. It can get +1 to hit from the trophy rack, as we mentioned, which is good for shooting at heroes and monsters, obvi, because that will put the cannonball on 3s and 2s or the hail shot on 2s and 3s. In Underguts, it is either Rend 3 or Rend 2, and the hail shot, like in the sort of optimal way this is structured, the way you're going to see it, the hail shot coming in within 12, again, starting, if they're 21 inches away, now suddenly they're within 12 in the shooting phase. They're going to make 10 attacks at you on 2s and 3s, -2 Rend, 2 damage. That is a very scary profile at 170 points.
How are you getting the -2 Rend on the hail shot?
Because you're in Underguts.
Underguts increases your
rend and everything, yeah.
Yep. So, like, pretty great for 170 points. The shocking part to me is not all of the value you get out of that 170 points. The shocking part to me is that we finally made artillery people will take. That is truly the amazing thing.
In this game. Yeah. And the prophecy is complete. Long ago, it was said that Gutbusters were deadly as ever. And now it is true. We are Gutbusters, deadlier than ever. Possibly even deadly. At all.
I think it is definitely true. Yeah. I mean, you're going to see this thing a lot. It's a threat.
Oh, yes.
It does work.
And it's also one of those, like, obvious best list kind of things that is also what the people would want to play even if it wasn't the best. It's one of those. So it's one of those fun lists that somebody would build as a meme because they just really like that, except it's accidentally great. And so you're going to see it probably even more than you normally might.
I think, here's where I'll say something. I think this thing's a little too cheap.
True.
Like, I would say over the long term, you'll see this thing creep up slightly in points. I don't think it's like drastically too cheap.
No, I think it'll creep up 10 or something every update until it lands at 195 or something like that by the end of whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the appropriate price for this thing is actually 190.
Yeah. I tacked down a 5 for actual no reason because it seems to be how they do it.
Right. But, like, I just think this thing is actually too efficient at its points right now. Like, I'm excited they get a cool shooting weapon, but people are going to freaking hate this. People hate really efficient shooting.
Is it's in the... I didn't see the pitch battle. Is it codified as artillery?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are limited to 4 per army.
Right.
Sure.
But even 4 is, like, very plenty. We'll probably trim 1 to fit in a something or whatever as we see the list evolve, I think.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay. Oh, nice. Jay Sefri said he just pulled out a 6th edition core rules book. All cannons had grape shot. Did they have a better grape shot? Maybe they had like a really strong one. I don't know. Trying to remember. But thank you, Jay Sefri. I appreciate that.
We check the tapes.
I mean, it was the useful grape shot because most of your cannons in the game were like 2 dudes standing behind a gun emplacement at that time, and this was like a cannon on a chariot that could race around the battlefield. It was a very different experience, right?
Also, if you're going to build this, put a Mornfang in there and not some scuffed Rhinox looking. This thing is like the honey, we have a Mornfang at home, you know, and then it's a Rhinox. Put a Mornfang in there.
Sure.
For me.
Now let's talk about my favorite artillery in the game. Okay, here we go. You thought we were going to talk about the scrap launcher. You were wrong. Here we go.
Thunder Tusk Beast Riders.
All right, the scrap launcher. 9 wounds, 4 up save, 7-inch move. Okay. Does not have the ogre keyword. Doesn't get the hungry and eating.
No, it does get Gutbuster though.
But it does have the Gutbuster keyword. That is true. Now, you're taking this thing for the piles of old scrap. I know it's only 145 points, though for maximum efficacy, you do probably want to have a unit of Noblars around. So we'll talk about them in just a moment. This thing has a range of 6 to 36 inches. It's an effective threat range of 42 inches, right? With its move factored in. That is a hell of a range.
That's the table.
That is the table.
They could have just typed the table outside of 6, but all right.
Right. This thing attacks see below. Okay, let's see below. The attacks characteristic of piles of old scrap is equal to the number of models in the target unit to a maximum attacks characteristic of 20. Ooh. Which is fine, because no one plays more than 20 models in a unit anyways. So cool.
Ooh. I wanted to take 60 man. Oh, you can't anymore because
you can still do 60 zombies and 60 clan rats. Those are the only exceptions, yes.
All right, well, 40. I wanted 40. One
settled for 30.
Please.
So this thing makes, realistically, depending on how the season shakes out, like, if we get to a season where you actually see hordes, okay?
Yep.
I think this thing's actually got some game in it. Let me just say that. I think it will put some shame in your game.
It's got Rend 1?
It does have Rend 1. So its base profile is 20 attacks, if you're shooting at a unit of 20, which is what I'm sort of construing here, right? On 4s and 3s, neg 1 damage. However, if you've got a Noblar unit sitting around it, okay, which come in packs of 20, you roll 2d6, and if you get less than the number of models in the Noblar unit, which you will, unless somebody attacked your Noblars, in which case you have 0 Noblars, because you either have all 20 or 0. Those are the only 2 settings that they exist in.
Yep.
Then you get +1 to hit, so it goes to 3s and 3s. Okay? Wonderful. I love it. It's fantastic. Truly, my only sadness about it is it would be so much more fun if this thing got the Rend bonus in Underguts, which it doesn't.
Yeah. Don't worry. You're gonna throw a curse on that unit with your priest who's up in the front lines, and you're gonna rain 30 attacks down upon their lands and their peasants.
You mean 20 attacks?
Oh, sorry, 20 attacks. Pardon me.
Yep.
But I like this thing. I think it's goofy. It's super meta dependent, but I like the way that they construed its attacks. Like, if we do see people taking large, hoardy stuff, it's actually a pretty cheap answer to that hoardy thing to start thinning them out.
Yeah, and it's one of the gimmicks we haven't seen yet in seasons, right? So eventually, the gimmick is going to be big units, right? It just kind of has to be.
Interestingly, it has the
Gutbusters, and then it was
keyword.
MSU.
Interestingly, it has the Gutbusters keyword.
Yeah, not Ogre, but Gutbuster.
Yeah, so even though like man-eaters don't have the Gutbusters, the Noblar stuff does.
Yep.
Noblars are 100 for 20. They're there to be cheap chaff.
They're so good at it too. They're great.
Yep.
They got an ability that does something.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
On a 4+, they do mortals for like things they chaff.
each time an enemy unit finishes a move. So let's walk through that. They
That's
move up to
high
within
win,
3
too.
inches of the Noblar, 4 up D3 mortals. Okay? They charge the Noblars, 4 up D3 mortals. They pile into the Noblars, 4 up D3 mortals.
Yep.
And then all the Noblars die. But still, funny.
Yeah. One of the best chaffs in the game has a chance at 3d3 mortals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their downside is, of course, they're very slow. All the ogres are much faster than them.
Right.
So if you're trying to do the move up thing, they will hamper your movement, and that's maybe kind of frustrating. But chaff is very good in this game. A reason chaff is very good in this game is everything in this book right now that we're reading.
Right.
So,
yes.
And also, just a hot tip when you're playing with Noblars in the game, just to make the game speed up a little bit, you don't have to roll their attacks. It's okay.
Right.
You don't need to. They're 5s and 5s, no rend. Just save some time. Maybe your opponent marks 1 damage on his sheet there, just to be a nice guy, and then you move on with your lives.
Yeah. Like, just, I'll activate my Noblars. I'll let you choose. Would you like to take 1 damage or 0 damage? I'm not going to roll the dice. You mark down whatever you feel is appropriate.
Have it be a deal. I'll tell you what. Either I'm going to roll 20 dice and then 5 dice, and then you have to roll saves, or you could just take 1 right now.
Right. I'll take the 1 every time.
I'll take the 1. Waiter.
Exactly. All right. Frost Lord on Stone Horn. 15 wounds, 3 up save, 9 bravery. He's a big boy. Base move at 12. Goes to 14. He is an ogre, obviously. So he's not hungry and eating all the same.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk about sort of there's a lot of similarities amongst some of these units because we're going to see multiple different dudes on Stonehorns and multiple different dudes on Thunder Tusks and so on and so forth. And they all have shared rules.
Yeah, for a tip, the monsters are always the same. Like, their profiles are always the same to help the player out so they just know what's going on with it.
Yep. This guy's still a damage machine. Still has a ward of 5 up. He gives +1 a charge for friendly Beastclaw Raider units wholly within 12 of him, which is, like, cool. That's
tax, by the way.
Yes, it does.
So if you have 2 of them, they're giving each other +2. There's no any found in that sentence.
Yep, they will probably FAQ that at some point because they probably meant it. Like, even when they didn't, they often correct those in. But yes, you are correct. Like the unexpected bird thing where it was like made perfect sense. Of course, there's 2 giant beacons of sorcery. Like, and it's Tzeentch, they love magic. Of course they give +2 to cast. Nope. All right, fine. They have the earth-shattering charge, where it's add 1 to the damage inflicted by the attacks made with their rock-hard horns and crushing hooves if they charge.
That's great.
Super good. Turns the horns to 4 damage, the hooves to D3 +1. Excuse me. Sadly, they kept the crushing hooves on random attacks, random damage, so it is still one of the swingiest attacks in the game.
Yeah. Sad. That's annoying to play with. But the thing is so sweet that who cares?
And the Frost Lord has a Frost Spear rule you will literally never care about because it does nothing and is such a waste of text. I was watching your game, by the way, Halo, like yesterday or Monday, whenever, when you like actually rolled a 6 to wound on some attack and you were like, wait, does this do something? And then you looked and you were like, oh, no, never mind. This is the wrong thing. It was the wrong weapon. For one attack... On a wound roll of 6, it does a completely irrelevant thing for that phase.
Yeah, it was double not worth it too because I'm like, oh, that's right. Yeah, it's only a hero monster, so it doesn't work. But if it was a hero monster, oh wait, the thing had already activated, so it still wouldn't have done anything.
This is not worth the paper or the text it's written in. Terrible.
I mean, it could reduce the movement of the unit you're attacking.
That would be even worse. Yes. But
as the movement of the thing that you're in combat with, that would be silly. Damn, that's a whole lot of words. Too bad I'm not reading them.
Yeah. So effectively, this guy has 3 abilities, but they're all good. Like, he has a great profile. He has multiple 3 damage attacks base, like 10 3 damage attacks base. 1 of which goes to 6 of which go to 4 on the charge. He also has his very swingy but potentially high damaging hooves. He's tough as a coffin nail. He can be given -1 to wound base from Rock Main Elder. you know, 3 up, 5 up, neg 1 to wound is a very hard profile to remove. In the game I played, I did lift this guy, but it took me 3 units into this dude to lift him. And one of those units was a completely super juiced unit of Chaos Warriors that was up to 5 attacks each. They were real angry.
He will eventually die, but your opponent is going to have to put a lot of points into that investment.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had way more points going into him than he was worth, right? And it took all of it, and I lifted him to the wound, basically. He's tough. So, and then obviously there's tons of spells and ways to buff him as well. We talked about him earlier.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
this is the reason you play Beast Claw. He's so fun. They made him more fun. He's great. We meme on the random TLDR rules in here that are stupid. It doesn't matter. He's awesome.
Yep.
And I played with him several games so far this weekend. Better than ever.
Yeah, this dude's a house. He's an absolute unit.
If they're going to have to fumble on something in the Beast Claw half of the book, fumble on Frost Sabers. I don't care. Ice Bro. I don't care. Yetis, sure. Just don't fumble on the coolest stuff. Yep. And they did not.
Nope. He's great. 445 feels exactly correct to me. He is about a quarter of your army. He feels like a quarter of your army. He acts like a quarter of your army. He's wonderful. So, like, no complaints other than they could just literally remove this text because we don't need it. So, great. Yep. All right, next up, the Huskard on Stonehorn, which is your priest. So this dude is actually a priest keyword. He gets to select a prayer and yada, yada, yada. He has 14 wounds on a 4-up. That's which is obviously a huge functional difference between 15 wounds and a 3-up versus 14.
That's a lot for 45 points that you just lost.
Yep.
And no frost here. That's a lot for 45 points that you just lost again. But he is a priest. And his Warscrolls prayers are very good.
They are. He still has the charge bonus because he is still a Stonehorn, so he still has the +1 damage. Still has the rock hard horns and crushing hooves at the exact same profile. He doesn't have the frost spear. What I love about this guy is he has 3 dumb range attacks because of the potential, 3 optional range attacks. You can only have one of them. Yeah. And the one you take is always the vulture.
Always, no question.
And it's so funny to me that they think that they can write rules that would make me take something else. Okay, all the vulture does, right, is
so simple.
You pick somebody on the battlefield you can see, and you roll a die, and on a 2-up, they take 1 mortal wound. That's it. It's like the simplest effect in the world. That guy, mortal wound. Moving on. So that's fast and easy.
That's fun, by the way. It's fun. That's fun, by the way. You take, in fact, you take a few of stuff like this, and you're just picking and choosing on the donut aisle. Ooh, I'll take that one, and then one on this guy to finish that 3-wound guy off. It's great.
Yep. And then they have these other attacks, the harpoon launcher and the chain trap, and they have all the, they can hit and wound, and they're bad hit numbers, and no rend, and questionable damage, and there's extra rules, and you can chain trap monsters so they can't walk away from you, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, stop it. Just cut this text. Get rid of it. I don't care that it came in the kit. It's irrelevant. Just give him the vulture all the time. Just the vulture. It's vulture. Okay? That's it. We don't need anything else.
It's the bird. Also, as a quick point, so Huskards in the lore, right? This is a lore channel now.
We're ready.
You start out as a Huskard. Actually, you start out lower than that. But you're a Huskard. You're pretty important in the tribe. And then eventually it's time to crown a new Frost Lord. And you enter the election. You get your votes, right? And then you're the one who's chosen. You are now the Frost Lord. And so what you do when you become the Frost Lord is eat your bird, because you no longer have it. So you devour your bird and you forsake your god and no longer become a priest. And now you're a Frost Lord. And I think that's weird.
That is weird. That sounds like some reverse explanation crap. Ben said, oh yeah, sorry. So Ben, it says it right here. Huskar and Stoners are armed with punches and kicks, and one of the following weapon options: harpoon launcher, chain trap, or blood vulture. One of the following weapon options.
It makes me want to know about the story of the guy that stayed a priest, right?
Yeah,
Because that's a command trait.
A trait for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's like, nah, dog. Nah, I'm good.
Checkmate atheists. I took this trait. Yeah.
So yes, 45 points cheaper. But as you mentioned, we do need to talk about his prayers. So this guy basically has 2 prayers. You're going to see the same 2 prayers again in a moment when we get to the last card on Thunder Tusk. Winter's Endurance heals D3 wounds, and Winter's Strength gives you +1 to wound for Beastclaw Raider units, obviously.
Both great.
Both great.
Both things you want.
Yep. Like, these are great prayers. The fact that they can heal,
especially in a monster army with the heal.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times D3 healing, you're kind of like whatever. But if you're playing a bunch of monsters that are incredibly durable, that's very good. Especially if you take another one, like maybe the normal heal for the universal. That adds up.
Yep. And like +1 to wound is amazing because most of these folks, most of your other Beastclaw stuff, wounds on 3s. Moving a unit to wounds on 2s is wildly good. Like +1 to wound is one of the best sort of buffs in the game you can get. So, yep, it's good. And Ben, no problem at all, buddy. Happy to help. It's they don't exactly make it preeminent. You're super good, man. No issue at all. Okay, Frostlord on Thunder Tusk. I'm not sure why this guy rose to the heights of his power and decided.
How did he do it? It wasn't. I don't know. Nepotism, maybe. It wasn't through strength of arms.
Does get the spear, but sadly loses all of the good attacks because all you have is your Colossal Tusks, which are way.
They're like bad Foot Hero Storm attacks.
Yeah.
On a 330 point monster or a 400 point monster.
Yeah.
Oof.
He does still have the Bellowing Voice, so the +1 to charge for other Beastclaw units.
He does still have the really long Frost Spear rolls.
Yes, that are pointless. And
hey, they're more pointful in this one because he's way less likely to kill anything.
This is true. Now, he does have -1 to be hit in melee. That is true.
No
That's
5-up.
Nothing.
But you can get the 5-up, so okay.
You can get the 5-up through the mount, right?
Yep. He can be 3-up, 5-up, -1 to be hit, and he still has snowballs.
Yeah, the real problem is they didn't fix the
2 mortal wounds at range. Yeah, he does 2 mortal wounds at range. True. That's okay.
I hate that they didn't change the rules. It's still targeting like massive horde units. When again, right now, I talked about the scrap launcher and why I think that actually has value because it can target those big units. And you might say, well, Vince, aren't you being duplicitous here? Well, first of all, the most you ever get out of this, let's construe the perfect situation. The most I get out of this is 6, right? Sort of mathematically on average, right?
Yeah.
I shouldn't say the most. I should say the sort of modal average.
That's not doing a lot to 60 Moon Clan Grots or Stabas, right?
Right. And so it's not actually horde thinning very well. And on top of that, it's 400 points. The reason I think the scrap launcher is funny is because it can do that job at 145. Like, it's pretty cheap. And it can do it at like a very, very, very long range. Again, this guy's like, not that 18 inches is super close, but it's not 36 either. Like, that's
he's also moved 8 instead of 12 too, so it's 10 instead of 14. So a little.
I mean,
he's a lot slower. A lot slower.
I threw 12 dice very regularly, looking for 6s at our last event, right? Because that was the Infernoth. And I regularly saw on like just fishing for 6s, I regularly saw between 2 to 4 mortals. And like, that's not bad.
No, your dumb prayer, which I never found did anything and was always basically worthless. Also targeted generally like 3 to 4 units. You were making those rolls against. Okay.
It did.
And you were doing it at 24 inches because of your silly double the range of your endless prayer invocation thing. Like, and And that endless prayer ain't 400 points.
Sure. No, but I mean, again, you're getting this on a body that can be 3 up, 5 up, -1 to be hit. That's not bad.
Yeah, he's very
That is
durable.
that's a wonderful pinning piece.
It's okay. It's okay. I still think this guy's overcosted. My honest answer is if I wanted a Thunder Tusk, okay, then I'm taking the Huskard on Thunder Tusk just to get the cheapest priest. Like if I'm trying to slam the cheapest priest possible into my army because of points, the Huskard on Thunder Tusk, again, his like melee profile is comically bad. It does nothing. Okay.
He has punches and kicks though on 3s and 4s, dude.
Look out for that. Yeah, 1 damage, no rend. But this guy is still a priest, still has -1 to be hit. He still gets the little Frostree's ice thing. If you think that's of any value, I tend to disagree, but whatever. He can still have a vulture for a bonus mortal.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's still like pretty durable too.
Yeah.
And
he's still got the 5 up, still got -1 to get hit in melee. Yeah, it's a 4 up instead of a 3 up, but it doesn't feel quite as bad. And 330 is a lot less than 400.
It just is. Like that 70 points is a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other thing that I'll say for this guy in defense of him is that you got to remember he has the monster section that's going to give him like enemy strikes last against it.
No, I agree. What I'm saying is I think the Frostlord on Thunder Tusk is a whiff because you're overpaying for a model that's just not doing enough. The Huskard is 70 points cheaper, and I actually like what I get out of him because I'm getting the priest, I'm getting the good prayer buff, and he's tough enough for what I want. Right? Because, like, I'm using him and the Frostlord on Stonehorn. Yeah. And, like, together, to me, they make the right-sized investment. Where he's going to pray and give the Frostlord +1 to wound. Great. He sits back in the back. I don't need him to be a super tough because he's not in the fray as much.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, me, I'm taking 2 Frostlords on Stonehorns instead. But I could very see someone taking a Huskard on Thunder Tusk. It's possible to play this thing. I haven't tested it out yet. I've tried a few lists, but I haven't tried a Thunder Tusk hero version yet. I think it's possible to do that.
Yeah.
And I would choose Huskard for sure over the Frostlord version, yeah.
Like, if you want to run... like, if your goal is to get a priest in the army as cheap as possible, look no further. This is the guy. Well, I guess taking the command trade is as cheap as possible. But
I was going to say a priest costs 0 because you're already taking a Frostlord on Stonehorn and making it a priest. But if you want a second priest and the Warscroll prayers, then yeah.
Which they are good. Like, these Warscroll prayers are good.
Prayers are good.
Yep.
Okay. Stonehorn Beast Riders at 310. They still pack the Stonehorn's good attacks, like, because the Stonehorn itself has a good monster profile. He still gets the bonus damage on the charge. He still has the 5-up save. The Stonehorn Beast Riders get a vulture, so good for them. They brought a bird. More birds. That's what you're going to take still, because you always just take the bird. All of these other missile weapon things are just completely nonsensical. Ignore them. It's always just the bird. And then obviously they have a bunch of punches and kicks that do nothing. On 4s and 4s. Woof.
Oof.
Like,
every other ogre in the world knows how to fight. These guys apparently don't.
I think it's just maybe they're too far away. Their chairs don't really let them get down in the action. Yeah. But again, at 310, these guys are like perfectly good, and they are. I didn't write it. I should have, but they are obviously battle line if you have the BCR general. So
yeah, they are battle line, and in Boulderhead, there's 16 wounds and a 4-up save.
Yep.
That's kind of like a little Anvil battle line 10-man unit that you could have taken with 2 wounds each or something like that. That has a fairly equivalent save. That can use monsters' actions. I submitted an FAQ question about this one to AOS FAQ, which is the email you use for that. Because in its little paragraph of the weapons you can choose, it says you can pick 1 out of the 3.
Yep.
And what it used to say was you always got the crossbow, and then you have a choice between the bird or the chain trap. So you got 2 always before.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I think this is an oversight for them is you can look at the picture. They have 2 weapons in the picture, right?
Yeah.
There isn't a way to assemble this with only 1 weapon. You don't have the arms for it. Like, you assemble this and each of them has a weapon.
Right.
So that might be a omission or something or a mistake, I think. And so this is the most impactful FAQ ever, to give them a single attack on 4s or whatever. But hey, I just want everyone to do the right thing, play by the rules. Also, I think this model should be elite. It should have the elite keyword, because in this game, if a pack of random feral dogs like dire wolves can issue themselves commands, and every single squad almost in the whole game can issue themselves commands, I feel like this thing should probably be able to do that too. Is it not elite?
Shocking that this unit
is not elite, I ask you.
Yeah. It is shocking. Yes, I agree. Just wild. I guess they really wanted you to use that Voice of the Avalanche or whatever.
They wanted me to use Voice of the Avalanche, I guess. Which means they probably intended this and it's not a mistake, which is sad. But who knows? I don't know who reads the FAQ questions. Hopefully they make the right choice. All right. I believe in you.
You can do it. And then the other side of the Beast Riders is the Thundertusk Beast Riders, which you're taking if you only have 270 points left and you want one more monster truck, I guess, if you don't have 310 points.
You have to leave to the tournament, and it's on your shelf for some reason anyway, and you got 270 points to pay. I'm like, well, okay. I guess I'll put it in. I didn't finish painting the gluttons that I'm using in a BCR army. I just didn't finish painting them. So 270 is basically 265. I guess Thundertusk Beast Rider, since it's already done.
Yeah, but these guys do not compare favorably to 6 gluttons. I don't even know how to make that comparison. You look at these guys compared to 6 gluttons, and you're like, so I get 2 extra inches to move, huh? Okay.
And I sacrifice 10 wounds.
Yeah. You lose 10. Hey, you get +1 save. So, I mean, what are you going to do there?
Big. Mm-hmm.
Huge difference.
And you can do, like clockwork, 2 mortal wounds every time you target anything with Frostwreath Ice, in my experience, anecdotally. Every time, 2 mortal wounds, rain or shine. Never more, never less.
It's always 2. Always 2 there are. Yes, it's like Sith.
It's almost like it does 3, but...
the Icebrow Hunter, our Beast Claw Hunter guy, as opposed to our Gutbuster Hunter guy.
He is the gingerbread man.
I built mine without that big giant stone skull.
Oh, you went for the lion chest?
No, I put him on... Well, I have a bear chest, and I just put a normal gut plate on him, because it just looked cooler.
That's fair.
Because he has a full chest under there. So, he kind of has, the con. He's wearing, Con's vest, Yep. So you gotta let that chest shine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is still largely doing what he did before, which is taking a unit of kitty cats into ambush. I don't remember. Did he used to be able to take 2 units space of kitty cats into ambush?
There was an old battalion that let you drop any number of cats with him, and it was called a skull.
Yep.
But after the update, it was just 1.
Okay.
And I actually don't know if anyone should really play this for any reason at all. Yeah, he doesn't. Hrothgorn's better, and he's still not good.
Right.
Because Gorgers are cheaper now, and Hrothgorn went up inexplicably. Because Frost Sabers went up inexplicably. They're 80 points for 2 now, which is one of the worst. Just awful. They got an extra wound, I guess. That's the reasoning. And they don't want our battle line to be really cheap, as if we would play an Icebrow Hunter General. I don't know. Yeah, this is doing nothing. If you want chaff, play Noblars even in BCR. And Icebrow Hunter doesn't really do much. His Warscrolls is really funny if you want to read through it in your own time and laugh at the single weird attacks and 9-inch range and stuff like that. They got rid of some of his silly stuff, but he still has Ice Breath. That's good for a laugh if you want to read Icy Breath.
Absolutely.
But we're trying to get through this. So.
Instead of shooting with your bad weapons, do this other bad shooting thing. Great. Okay.
Give up 2 single shot,
shorter range,
a different shorter range, also bad thing. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's wild.
They clearly didn't go over this one again.
Yep. I agree. The Sabers are bad. They are like your super cheapest battle line option if you take this guy as the general, which is okay. Cool. Neat. Mournfang. 175 for 2. If you've got a BCR general, they are battle line. They do have a champion that has +1 attack now, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
However, they only get a standard bearer, and they only get a musician if you take them in 4. So for 350 for 4.
And they only get the impact hits that aren't on 6s if you take them as 4 as well.
Exactly.
So a unit of 2 Mournfang is feeling extremely depressing. It's sad. They don't have a lot of bonuses. They don't get a lot of their stuff. They weave through all of the Allegiance abilities. They're kind of just 2 screen kind of things that charge something and make Unleash Hell bad.
But at 4.
But at 4, they do glutton damage for 350 with faster movement.
Yeah, I think these guys have got some game.
Mm-hmm.
They are ogres. They do move 11 base, which is fast, as I said before, but not quite fast enough. But again, if you take them in like Thunderbellies where they can run and charge, all of a sudden they're definitely on point. Otherwise, think about maybe the prayer for 3 movement or something like that, or just use them appropriately because your Stonehorns will outstrip them to some degree, and that can be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, certainly not in damage though. A unit of 4 Mournfang will greatly outdamage a Stonehorn Beast Rider, for instance.
Oh sure.
Beast Riders are just like flailing around on 4s, rolling d6 for attacks. Their damage is super inconsistent, not great, even on the charge. If you want damage, units of 4 Mournfang are like Gluttons, which are just you're paying 80 points for being a little faster. And you have a cool Unleash Hell ability. That Unleash Hells against you only work, they only wound on natural 6s, which means your opponent is just not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, unless they do if your opponent has like proccing mortals on 6s or something, they'll still cast it against.
If you charge into the butterflies, the Sylvaneth butterflies, they'll still shoot you.
Yeah.
But yes.
But for the most part, it means your opponent will simply choose not to, and then you can charge your Frostlord in, and there you go. That's the use for 2 of them. Cheapest battle line you can take without humongous taxes that you don't want to pay. It feels sad because you're missing out on a whole bunch of stuff as a unit of 2, but it's got a job. Give it some Iron Fists, actually, unlike Gluttons, because the damage is the same between both of their weapon options. You might as well take Iron Fists. And you can do some stuff with them on the table. They're all right. I wasn't like terrifically impressed with them when I was playing with them, but they're all right.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed by their damage. Like, they were definitely doing they put out the heat. They still have the problem of they don't really take it super well. Even a unit of 4 is like 24 wounds on a 4-up save. If something with decent rend hits them, it will just, pretty much plow them off the table. They hate being fought. Like, they really don't like when a lot of Rend 2 is floating around in the enemy army. That's a bad time.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is pretty common, actually, nowadays. But.
Sure. Like, most of my army was Rend 2, and Mournfang were dying a lot. Right?
Yeah.
But their damage, like, when they got the strike, now he actually played some with both builds just to see which one he liked better. So, like, he had some with Gargan hackers and some with the clubs and hackers. Yeah. And I mean, it is a relevant difference because the -2 rend, that is a thing. The problem is you go up to that 4s to hit, so that unit becomes very much the one that like has to have all out attack and has to be very careful to avoid ever getting -1 to hit.
Yeah.
Right. If they can stay on 3s and 3s, that profile will do a lot of work because of that -2 rend in the current meta of like higher armor saves. If you like the clubs and hackers are more reliable in more situations, but they can also just duff pretty easy if they go into something with a high save.
Yeah. In a unit of 4, I could totally see if you're playing like one of those armies where I'm going to take a unit of 4, I'm actually going to cast Blood Feast on them. I'm going to make sure they have their buffs and stuff. Hackers are fun. Rend 2 damage 3. That's just a joy to look at, right? On a war scroll.
Yep.
Good thing. Your little piddly units of 2 that aren't going to do anything anyway, give them Iron Fists and they'll punish the opponent for killing them.
Right. Yetis. Yetis are 120 for 3. They're battle line if you've got a Thunder Tusk general.
Nope.
Yetis are bad, right? I mean, like, these are just
bad.
So
they were technically like the best battle line you could play before this book. but that was amongst a bunch of other awful stuff.
Sure.
And they didn't get much better. So yeah, they squiggle around with the good 6-inch activate and pile in thing so they can be annoying. They dodge all the relevant keywords. They don't have unit champions, so they can't give themselves commands. Their attacks are really random on 4s and stuff. They have a 6-up save. I could see playing a few of these once you've satisfied your battle line and you're thinking like, oh, I'm playing a Beast Call army, but I still somehow need chaff. Skip right over the Frost Sabers and take like a unit or two of Icefall Yetis and just kind of put them somewhere running around, piling in, maybe retreat and then pile in every single combat. You could like maybe play them, but in every list I've built, there's no room for them. And I'm not too terrifically sad about that.
Sure.
Also, they're super Ugmo. Like, oh man.
Yeah, they're another ancient sculpt. Tom, am I missing anything here? Is there any defense of Yeti or of Yetis?
I don't really see one. I mean, they're fine. Like, I don't know what they're doing.
Right. They're so fragile. That's the problem. Like, they're 6-up, 6-up.
Like, and like, even if you added 2 inches on pile-ins to get an 8-inch pile-in, which is possible, with the item, I don't know. I don't know what it's doing. So sure,
yeah, because they're not like hitting super hard when they come in.
Right, like sure they can run and then drift in 8 inches, with or run and charge and then drift. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree. I don't know either. All right, the Firebelly's 130. He has his own little spell lore. He is an ogre. He's a single caster. He has little fire breath. I love that his little fire breath short range thing on 2s and 3s, no rend 1 damage, is again equal to the number of models in the unit, but it caps at 10. But that this little doof can make 10 range attacks or whatever is pretty funny. And so like fine.
His cloak gives him a 5-up ward. That's neat.
Yeah, if he casts his spell, he gets a 5-up ward. His spell is like completely unremarkable, except the in addition is almost the reason you cast the spell. You're just like, sure, that and also I got a 5-up ward. That's what we're doing here.
I mean, you might actually
combat.
You might actually play this guy, and he'll be casting Billowing Ash, not his Warscroll spell.
Right,
and that might be neat. You could do that.
And the Maw Pot is still the Maw Pot. It does what it is. All right. Let's very quickly here at the end, because oftentimes people have asked for this, so we're going to do it fast because we don't have we're late, but we'll do it a little bit. Oh, it's all good. It's been a good discussion. It's a good book. It's a fun book. I think this is honestly like a fun book. Just said we're gonna do a couple lists. I'll bring them up here. So just kind of take us through. We'll spend like a minute on each list. Hey, well, these are some just fun, quick lists you gave over.
Okay, we start with the obvious list. It's actually, you know what? I should bring this up. Sorry for wasting time.
No, you're good.
Super small on my screen.
I will read real quick while you're bringing it up. I'll read the first one.
No, I got it. We're good.
Okay, cool. Go.
It's the obvious list. It's the one everyone's probably going to start with, or take something similar to this. It's in Underguts. Maybe it has a Warlord and Bounty Hunters. Maybe it's got something else. Who knows? It has a Tyrant, which is the safest choice to hold on to that trophy rack because he's very durable. Fate Seeker, Death Cheater. He doesn't do anything else, really. He holds on to that artifact. That's all he can do, but he's good at it by gum. Then 2 Butchers to cast buff spells. Blood Feast is a great buff to cast on gluttons who do great damage if they charge stuff. Blurberg Rub it does so much. Wow. And Flask of Stonehorn Blood to keep the thing alive when your opponent realizes what you're doing and wants to kill the guy to stop the good thing from happening. You run Lead Belchers just as the cheapest possible bad line you can. You're playing Noblar screens, so your opponent has something to attack instead of you, while you wheel yourself into 12-inch range for the super shotgun shots, which are the real strong part about Iron Blasters. And then finally, you can line up the big quad charge to blast them off the table. You're going to have fun. It's 2,000 points and 12 drops. Please enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gross. It will put out a ton of damage at range and a ton of damage in melee. It's it's ogres. Somebody asked, is the Ogres book still strong Timmy energy overall? Yes. Very much so.
Very yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I got a complaint or two about the book, but strong Timmy energy is not one of them. They did it.
Yep. It does everything it says it will do on the tin.
Yeah. And then we have the obvious list, but greedy, which is the same thing, except you wanted to play a Stonehorn in it because the Frostwood on Stonehorn is super fun. And the two most fun things in the book are Iron Blasters and a Frostwood on Stonehorn. And so why don't you play both of them in the same list, right? You got to bend over backwards a little bit to make it work. We only have 3 Iron Blasters. We only have 1 Chaff Screen of Noblars. We got a whole bunch of Gluttons. Butcher is the general. This is the greedy part. He's very shootable in the face, this guy. And he's holding the trophy rack. He's the one that casts Blubber. If your opponent is able to, at range, deal almost any damage at all, he's dead. And part of the combo is ruined. But you know what? You still got a Frost Lord. Still got a whole 18 Gluttons that are trying to charge stuff. You have backup plans. And so this is the one where you're being a little greedy, admittedly, but you're playing all of the toys at the same time.
Yeah.
And we're going for an inspired triumph on this one because it turns out re-rolling a random charge roll is probably better than +1 to wound, but that's to taste. So whatever you want to do. Next is the very advanced high skill required list, which I may or may not be playing. It's in Boulderhead Zoo. The monsters are at +2 wounds. It's bounty hunters are on the Stonehorn Beast Riders because they're not a behemoth. They become battle line instead, so they're bounty hunting. 2 Frostlords on Stonehorn. One is the general with Rock Mane and Touched by the Everwinter, which is the priest thing, and I've chosen the Prayer Heal. The next Stonehorn has Metal Cruncher, and he has Arcane Tome Flaming Weapon. So each of them can get durability with their stuff. You can Mystic Shield yourself with the one guy, and you have Rock Mane and Healing for the other guy. But they both have offense too. Because Arcane Tome could cast Flaming Weapon. You got Metal Cruncher. And the other one is a Frostward on Stonehorn, so there's the offense. Stonehorn Beast Riders are not like terrifically great, but it's 16 wounds on a 4-up. They have a 5-up as well. They just pretend they're big anvil battle line that if they charge something, they're actually capable of dealing damage. Also, they have 3 vultures. That's fun. You can point at stuff and have it take a damage. That's really useful. They capture 10. And then 2 Gorges. They are gorgeous, but I'm not talking about the sculpt. They will drop from the sky and hand you victory points for free. And by free, I mean 160 points. 1980, Bloodthirsty Triumph, 7 drops. If you like monster trucks, and apparently you don't like anything else at all, this is the army for you. Although I must say, if you're copy-pasting the same exact model, which is monopose, that many times, you might consider doing some custom stuff with them to taste.
Yep.
Perfect. Love it. We did it, everybody. We got there. There it is. Thank you. Thank you, Haywo. Much appreciated. Thank you for shooting over the lists. Thank you, everybody who watched. I know this was a longer show, but there's actually a lot of fun here. Overall, I think I'm happy with the book. The problem I have right now is just too many books I want to play. Like I want to play my sons. I want to play the S2D. I'd like to get these ogres out. It's all good. It's just it's a embarrassment of riches right now for me. But thanks, Haywo. I appreciate it.
Yeah, always a pleasure to be on the WW, handing out W's. Speaking of W's, if you enjoyed the show, do click that like button and the notification bell. Also, we got Patreon down here.
It's good. You were doing so well. Yes, hit like, hit subscribe.
I don't actually know how the rest of it goes. I was
okay.
It was pretty good.
Do all those things. Hitting buttons is fun.
All right.
Yes, if you want to support the channel, we do have a Patreon down there focused on hobby and review and taking your next step on your hobby journey. Don't forget there's also a merch store. You can cast your vote for Team Tom or Team Tyler through the only way we all know how, which is capitalism, the way we decide all things in America or this current world. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate it. Go out there, always be charging, smash your opponents, just like you smashed that like button. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.